This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to the sunrise safari, but there is no sunrise just yet. But our eyes will be focused on the tops of the trees today, hoping to find a leopard or two. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Sebastian. It's been quite some time since we last worked together, so it's very nice to be back, Seb. Now, for those of you that have never watched this magnificent live wildlife safari show, welcome. So if you'd like to talk to us, because it's live and it's happening right now, can you believe it? All you have to do is, if you're going to use Twitter to talk to us, that's probably the best way, #SafariLive. But then, of course, if you're watching on YouTube, the stream chat is, or the U-chat, I think it's called. I don't know what the fancy lingo is for that. But it is there, and you can also use that. So ask some questions. Ask questions about what you're seeing on screen, and that way you'll get your questions answered. Now, sorry, I've got my head on the ground because I thought I saw a leopard track, but it may be just a hyena footprint. And so they're just hyenas. We're going to go and try and find leopards today. Obviously, there's been quite a few of them on the property at the moment. So we're going to go back to where Tingana and Hosana were last seen, which is towards Treehouse Dam. Now, there's been much discussion this morning. Highly doubt that they'll still be there. Maybe Hosana will be around. Tingana probably gone off on a territorial patrol, I'd imagine, especially with Mfokazi, that new male leopard, well, new male leopard to us, we don't normally see being around. I don't think he's going to take too likely to an intruder being around. Anyways, so I think we'll just sort of check in that area. Luckily, there's lots of sandy roads for us to look at. You can see the tracks on the ground. And then, of course, Tristan will be giving us a helping hand on bushwalk. Oh my goodness, look at these guys run. This is how the guinea fowl do their training in the morning. I don't know why they're running so fast. I mean, that's wasting energy. If you're running from us like that, or perhaps they just want to get warm, it is quite chilly this morning. They're still going, they haven't stopped. What do you think the guinea fowl running song would be? I was hoping someone was going to chime in, because I've got nothing. That one is going to get eaten. That's left behind there. You are unfit. 2 more laps, please. 2 more laps around. Louise, I don't think that could be their song. I feel like they are like in the army and they sing and they chant marching song. But I don't know what type of song a guinea fowl would chant. We'll ask them a little bit later and see what they have to say. I don't want to go down in here. It's too cold. Oh no, I might have to do the mittens. These are great gloves. I love them so much because I can still take pictures and work the radios and do all these amazing things. And then, just my thumb sticks out, which is not so bad. Chris, it's an elephant. Sue got them for me. I didn't get the privilege of meeting Sue. However, Sue was a lovely viewer that came to visit us, and I think I was in the Mara maybe. Anyways, but then when I got back to South Africa, Emma handed me this gift. She was like, here we go, here is a present for you, Taylor. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. Gloves with my favorite animal on them. Started crying a little bit. Right, let me put the other one over before I start crying that my hands are cold, which I probably will do anyways. Right. That's so cool. Oh, I'm supposed to be looking for tracks. My bad. I had a moment there where I forgot what I was doing today out on safari. It's looking for footprints. Tristan will be doing the same thing.
We are doing some tracking. What we're trying to do is stay warm, though, first and foremost. It's a lot colder than I expected it to be, so we've been trying to kind of keep hands in the pockets and try and stay as warm as possible this morning as we start out our walk. Now, it is a very good morning to all of you. As Taylor mentioned, my name's Tristan. On camera today, I've got Viam with me this morning, and so what we're going to be trying to do is, on this chilly morning, it is perfect kind of weather to start a walk, because I think it's going to get quite hot later, so I'm glad that we're out at this time of the day. But essentially, firstly, what we're going to do is we're going to go to Galago Pan. The reason we're going to go to Galago Pan is twofold. One is because we're trying to see if there's any sort of sign of Tundi moving back into this area. She went a very long way yesterday, and she went all the way south into Little Gowrie, and she was seen there just about 20 minutes before we finished the show, and then kind of looked as though she was coming back this way. So I want to check if she didn't come back this way. The other thing is that Louise, when she woke up this morning, she heard a leopard sawing in this area. So that either can be Tundi coming back, which is what Herbie and I think, or Tingana maybe has left that carcass and has moved in this direction towards maybe where Tundi was. So let's go and see what we can find there. That's going to be the kind of plan for our walk. It's often a good way to actually be able to find things is to go and check out at a water point first. And then we know where she left Kalamba yesterday, and so we'll head into that direction, which is basically straight north of Galago Pan. Now, VM, just be careful, there's a branch behind you, so you don't want to fall over that one. There we go, so VM managed to negotiate that quite well. Things like this can trip up a cameraman quite often, so one has to be a little bit careful. Ali, no, I mean, I've never seen a leopard form a coalition. I don't think it's ever been recorded. The reason why is it's just completely against their nature. Even though Hosana does actively kind of almost seem like he seeks out others, that's not actually the case. What happens with him is that he's either looking for food or water, and then is curious and bumps into these other leopards, and that's why he's kind of often around them. Tingana joins him a lot because Tingana is one that always looks out for his stomach, and so Hosana, who's been fairly successful during the course of this winter, has provided a lot of food for Tingana, and therefore Tingana's kind of joined up and we see them together. But I've never heard of a coalition. I suppose it could potentially happen because you can never write off anything out here in the bush. That's one thing about wild animals and nature, is that there's always a chance that things can be a little bit different. There's always a chance that an animal can behave differently to what is kind of written in books, and so you can never say never. But as far as I know, there has not been a recording of a coalition of leopards, and I would be very surprised if it did happen. But who knows? These Sabi Sands cats are a little bit different sometimes, and so maybe that's where we'll see the first leopard coalition come out of this area. Now, it sounds like Steve Falconbridge, who's up in the Masai Mara, he is ready and waiting, but he sounds like he is stuck at a gate, and I wonder why he's stuck, but we'll go and find out so he can say good morning and to tell his story.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome all the way up here north to the Masai Mara, where the sun has been cresting the horizon for the last 15 to 20 minutes, while Manu and myself sit here at the gate patiently waiting to be released into the African wilderness called the Mara Triangle. Good morning, everybody. My name is Steve. I'm joined for the first time officially by Manu. Last time Manu and I were out, we got about 30 meters down the hill and the vehicle broke, and then I went out with someone else. So this could be, we're hoping, if we get let out into the reserve, the first time that Manu and I actually do a game drive together. So very, very exciting. I'm sure Tristan and Taylor have told you. Drop the hashtag SafariLive for questions and tweets, and let us know how you're doing on the YouTube chat. We'd love to hear from you. We are going to get down the hill eventually, and we're going to go down and see what the North Clan is doing. I'd like to introduce myself to Waffles for the first time, see exactly what's going on that side. I appear to have lost my earpiece. No. Okay, so it might just be my twisting in the seat that I messed with my microphone. There are some beautiful birds. I could not tell you what they are. I'm thinking they look like starlings. Beautiful morning. I'm watching the Skyships balloon, Governor balloons moving through in the distance. We are on the Olololo escarpment, looking down into the majestic Mara Triangle, and what an exciting morning we have ahead of us. No doubt we'll be doing some birding. Yesterday afternoon we went out and we saw so many animals. I've never in my life seen the amount of animals I saw yesterday. Wildebeest by the thousand, zebra by the hundreds. Very excited to be out there. So yes, everyone's excited to see Waffles. I would like to see her as well. She looks quite big on the TV, so I'd like to go see her in person and see exactly how big she looks, with all the little additions to the North Clan burrow over there. So hopefully it won't take us too long to get down the hill. Another beautiful dawn up here in the Mara Triangle. Time to take a beautiful deep breath. Just soak it all in. It is quite a windy morning. The wind was flapping around the tents all morning. We've got some layers on. It is a little bit cooler than down in Djuma. It's about 15 degrees Celsius, 55 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's pretty fresh. Okay, well, soon we will hopefully be leashed out into the Masai Mara, but in the meantime, let's go over to McCurdy and see what her plans are.
Ooh, yes, I hope so. There's nothing worse than being stuck at the boom gate, itching to get down into the reserve that you can't. So we just quickly checked the kill sites from where Tingana and Hosanna have been hanging around, but nothing. There's nothing there yet. No, there won't be anything there because there's not even a scrap of bone. I don't know why I said that. So we're on our way now towards Treehouse Dam. So I'm just checking very carefully. I could see that the route that Hosanna took to get towards Treehouse Dam, I saw his tracks going off-road. So hopefully he's still hanging about, although he seems to also do a fair amount of walking these days. It is chilly. We also had very fresh honey badger tracks, but I think that honey badger is probably long gone now. After we decided to just quickly pop in and just to check around the old carcass. Okay, nothing here. Okay, now we need to look on termite mounds, on the trees, also just down on the ground, because Hosanna doesn't seem to really have a preference. You'll just see him all over. Okay, where are you? He has got one favorite termite mound, which is this one, which you'll check now. Oh, did you leave him on the dam wall? Okay. Oh, he was looking south. Well, there was a whole herd of wildebeest that moved through here, or a little bit further back. Quickly just check for tracks. Okay, nothing. Not anything that I can see going over the wall, but the ground is particularly hard here. No, I can't really see any tracks. I don't know, has Louise fallen asleep at the keyboard? It's gone very quiet. Okay, I don't see tracks this side, but that means he could have also just gone on the road, off the road. Just trying to think. Let me go a little bit down here. Let's just check and then we'll turn around, and then I think he normally would go west. He doesn't always go down here. We'll see. Maybe he followed. Maybe he just was following Tingana around. Okay. No luck just yet, which is not great. This is the hardest part of our tracking, is trying to figure out where on earth these animals went. Okay, off you go to Tristan. Let's go see how far away he is from when you last saw him.
Well, we're not that far away, Taylor. We're kind of slowly meandering our way northwards in these drainage lines and thickets. And the reason why we're doing it slowly is because we don't want to miss anything, nor do we want to kind of walk too fast and not hear what's going on. And we actually just heard a leopard soar, but it is miles away from where we are. It sounds like very, very far to the northeast, which I'd imagine could be Tingana. But we're going to scratch around and check. I'm on the trail of where Herbie and Taylor were yesterday, trying to track down Thandi and Lalamba, and so we're just trying to see if we can find little Tlalamba's track somewhere here. I'm pretty sure she's still around this area, and if Thandi hasn't come back, then she still should be here. The problem with Tlalamba is that she generally is not that good on foot. So normally when she sees us on foot, she's a little bit shy if mom's not around, and so we're going to have to be quite careful and keep our voices down and try and stay as quiet as possible as we go, because if we make a lot of noise, then generally little Tlalamba will often just kind of get up and walk and just try and kind of hide away, and then she's a little bit shy of what's going on. So it's always good just to try and walk nice and quietly, walk slowly, and listen to what's going on. It's also just the most beautiful morning out here. It is cold, and a lot colder than we thought it would be, so it's a little bit kind of fresh, but the sunrise that is coming up on our eastern side is absolutely beautiful. There's these spider webs that are in the trees at the moment that are glowing a little bit. With this cold, there's been a bit of dew that's formed, and so you can kind of see it out on the eastern side at the moment. There's all these kind of little, what would you call them, glowing spider web things, spots I suppose would be a good way to put it, that are kind of glistening as that sun's coming up. So it is absolutely beautiful off to the eastern side, and hopefully with that sun coming up a little bit, there'll be a bit of warmth and we won't have to feel as cold as we are right now. But it really is a beautiful start to the day, so not the worst way to kind of walk around. So Kathy, no, maybe. I mean, it's difficult to say. I think it's a little early for her to be trying to extend territories or anything like that to give sections off to Tlalamba. What I think's happened is Herbie's convinced that yesterday something happened, whether it be hyenas or mfukazi or something, that Tlalamba got herself into a bit of a tight spot. And because what he said was, when Thandi's tracks came out of Torchwood, she was running at full speed, and she kind of got into Juma, and then she met up with Tlalamba, and then they walked this massive section. Now that generally indicates that something kind of was not good, and she's now taking that cub far from where there was an issue. The other thing that was interesting is when I chatted to Herbie last night, he reckons, and I am of a similar sort of opinion, is that she came and she dropped Tlalamba off here. From there, she then did a big loop around this western side and then southwards all the way to Little Gowrie and round. And so basically what it would look like she was doing was almost checking the kind of perimeter of her territory to make sure that there was no sign of Shadulu and that it was safe to leave Tlalamba here while she went around for the evening. And so it's an interesting kind of tactic that she maybe employed just to double check that the safety of this particular section is okay. And once she's happy with that and she didn't get a response or didn't find any scent for Shadulu, then she was okay, or any other leopard should we say, then she was okay to leave the little one here and stay here for the remainder of the night. So it was a very kind of interesting ploy from Thandi, and I wonder what kind of got under her bonnet to try and get her so kind of amped up that she needed to move, one, Tlalamba so far, and two, herself do this massive territorial patrol. It's something that Thandi does do every now and then. She does go on these massive walkabouts, and it's almost as if to just check, okay, who's in the territory, who's moving around here, what do I need to worry about? It's quite amazing how sort of proactive she is as a mother in terms of trying to defend the area and keep little Tlalamba safe. So I don't think she's extending territory. I mean, where she walked yesterday is pretty much the western boundary that she walks. She walks the same route when she walks this area. She kind of goes from here, and then as we followed, basically, Vuatela Access, Power Lines, Zoe's, Rebecca's, Philemon's, Treehouse Dam, all the way to Little Gowrie. So she's kind of got a route that she likes to follow. And I suppose that's what she was doing, is just double checking her territory. Interestingly enough, for those of you that are wondering about Shadulu and haven't really heard any updates, she's currently on a kill on Simambili, not too far from Triple M, so she's not that far away, but she wouldn't have been moving around yesterday. Apparently her kill still had a bit of meat on it, so I think Thandi was safe to leave little Tlalamba here for the night, which is very, very good. Right, well, we're still moving steadily kind of northwards. I know that where Herbie left the tracks was quite far north of where we are now, so we're still trying to just get into that area to try and see if Thandi did come back. Right, now we are trying to find any evidence for our favorite female cats, but Taylor's still trying to find any evidence for the favorite boys, and let's see how she's going on.
We did see him, but it's a bit difficult to try and track right now when you're waiting for Steve to get down. look, because I think if we're going to want to find Hosanna, it might sort of walk his tracks, and hopefully at some point we will go back to them and try and track him right now. Go sort of boundary patrol, if you will, and then hope that we don't see his tracks crossing out, because we're right on one of our boundaries. Just checking, it's so down here. I really don't actually want to go into the mall. Excited, so I don't think we'll go in there just yet. Okay, let me just quickly check here. Ooh, lion tracks. Although I'm not going to jump out, but all of those are lion tracks. This is fantastic. This is what we will now be following up. Sorry, Hosanna, because they are my favorite cats in the whole wide world. Is the Leons. Now we need to try and find them. So they go onto Twin Dams Road. This is exciting. Okay. I don't know what pride it is yet. There's a combination of mainly female lion tracks. It could be the Nkuhumas. It could be the Styx pride. It could be somebody with cat paw prints under their shoes. Good. I know there was whisperings of distress calls of buffalo on the dam cam last night. That's a bit hard. It doesn't really help me too much, that, because I don't know what direction that was. It's like me saying, I heard a Varro's eagle owl last night. Oh, there's a leopard. That's probably Hosanna. But where are the lions? We're not going to the leopard. We're looking for lions now. No, I'm joking. Okay, we'll just stop here. We'll have a look and then we can get closer. Hosanna. Yes, that is 195% Hosanna. He's just got such a look about him, everybody. I don't know how to describe how to identify Hosanna. It's taken me a while. But, like, typically, he's always fat. You very rarely see a thin Hosanna. And he's got the most golden eyes I've ever seen on a leopard before. He's beautiful. And he's just got a very round face as well. He's precious. I don't know why he's sitting in the tree like that. I don't know if the sun's too bright. If he had a big night last night, and that's the equivalent of leopard sunglasses. I haven't got a clue. Should we go say hello to him? So, I used to call one of my horses, his name was Assegai San Remo, but we used to call him Remo for short. But I also used to call him Dorcas Maximus, because he was actually, that horse is the equivalent of Hosanna. He was a clown, and I feel like Dorcas Maximus works quite well for Hosanna too, and I mean that in the nicest way. He's so sweet. He's by far my favorite leopard in the northern Sabi Sands. I like Kuchava too, but I think my favorite male leopard has to be Hosanna. Oh man, see, now I'm not concentrating. Now I was supposed to look to see where the lion tracks go. But I think they may have gone over the dam wall, and I think they might have had a drink here. We'll just quickly check here. Because I do really want to find them. I wonder if it's not worth Tristan actually getting in a car this morning, if there's potentially lions on the property. Because we can't view all the animals. Oh, where is he?
I think it's the next bush.
The next one.
Yeah, you can go around that one.
We're now like...
Yeah, he's over there.
Oh, there we go. That's fine. I was like, oh, this is a bit close if he was here. Oh, goodness. Thank you, Alyssa. You said you quite like the name. Dorcas Maximus. Seb, is that fine? Do you want me to go forward a little bit more? I think I forward a little bit, like that. So this is always the hardest part, is trying to find the gap. There we go, we've got a gap though. So there he sits. Of course he's going to do that now. I don't know if he'll stay here for too much longer. Maybe he gets up. No, we'll kind of just wait and see. But that's quite exciting that we've got like a whole bunch of animals potentially this morning, which would be lovely. Nice if it wasn't too hard to find young Hosanna. Shame said this is not nice, eh? Let me take the gap, and then, no, he's not. He's not playing supermodel like he normally does. Okay, we're going to go all the way around and get onto the other side of this young chief. Off you go to Steve, who's finally making it down the hill, and I wonder what he's got in store for you this morning.
Yes, we are out. Thank you, Taylor. Sorry, folks, and sorry to the Juma team for holding the space. We have been unleashed, and Manu and I are officially on our first game drive. So excitement is in the air, and we are going to go to the den site, but we're going to go past the area where those two young males last night were with David. On our way back last night, we found a number of, we think, North Clan individuals not far from there. So who knows what might be transpiring in that area. It is just wonderful to be out. Just like out in Juma, you have no idea what you can expect out in the Mara. Anything could turn around on any corner, and it is just a spectacle to be out here. And yes, we would like to, after the den site, go and see if we can actually find an active crossing. We're thinking it won't happen too early. I don't think it would happen from my personal thoughts. The animals don't like going to water when it's cool. It's just kind of like their mindset. So they wait until the heat of the day when the crocodiles, as Manu was saying, why don't they go early when the crocodiles are cold and sleeping? They go in the middle of the day when the crocodiles are hot and active. Their solar panels are fully charged. So it is kind of a weird conundrum, isn't it? But the migration, we are at the end of it. All the animals are probably sleeping, Lou says. Yeah, it's true. It's true. But we will go out and find them. It's a beautiful day out here, and the horizon just goes on and on, as you can see in front of us there. We're just trying to cover a little bit of distance to get out and about. So excuse the pace. Cal6, the Mara Triangle is not a valley. In fact, I'm going to just slowly pull over on the side here, and we'll see that the Lolo range is to the right of us over here. And that is an escarpment that was probably created with the Rift Valley itself, and it would lift it. So that's granite. I'm trying to remember the type of granite it is, but granite would have been deep underneath the Earth's surface, and this entire area at one stage, very similar to the Lowveld, would have been much higher, much more risen above with all sorts of sedimentary rock, and then through many millennia of weathering, the sedimentary rock would have moved all the way down, eroded down, weathered down to this low-lying sort of flat open area. And then at some stage, with the creation of the Rift Valley and the opening up of much lava, probably about 140 odd million years ago, it would have covered this entire area with lava and giving it a huge amount of nutrients. And that's why we get the herds and the abundance and the grazing that occurs here. But you can see it's quite flat. There's some undulating sort of hills in the distance, and some of them are probably, through my limited experience of the geology up here, probably some different granitic areas that haven't eroded or weathered down. But essentially, enormous amount of weathering that led to the formation of what is a very, very low-lying area, including the Serengeti, which was then covered in volcanic debris, ash, and sediment. There we go, you can see. So, not a valley. You get the Ngorongoro crater, which is further down south in Tanzania, and that is essentially what I believe an old volcano. Very, very old, and it's got enormous amounts of diversity within the crater. So, not a crater from an impact crater from an asteroid. Meteor, sorry, an asteroid never enters the Earth's atmosphere. Meteorite hits the ground. So it wasn't created by that. It's probably an old volcano. Africa is one of the oldest continents on the planet, but from a geological point of view, on top of the surface, it is one of the youngest because of all the volcanic activity that happened with the splitting up of the continents. And Africa itself, if we look at the global map in perspective, Africa has pretty much stayed in the same sort of place, straddling the equator, pretty much around the tropics the entire time. We can't bypass this, can we, Manu? There's no ways we can bypass this while I continue to talk. There we go. We just got some elephants, some beautiful Mara elephants. And so Africa stayed in the same place. It has for time immemorial. And 90% of Africa is still very, very old. 98 maybe percent of it is still about 3.6 billion years old. It's all underneath the surface, all that old rock. But due to the volcanic activity that happened between 140 and 180 million years ago, and the formation of the creation or the dismantling of what was Gondwana land, when all the continents were once together, they split apart and they caused huge amounts. You can imagine just an enormous piece of land moving apart. It causes huge rifts, huge mountains to form. The Atlas Mountains, the Cape Folded Mountains happened a very long time ago. And with that formation of those mountains caused all sorts of upwellings and shifts underneath the Earth's surface. And when the lava flowed on top of the Earth's surface, it basically killed off pretty much everything that was around. And so through many millenniums of evolution, Africa is what we see today. A very, very diverse continent with enormous amount of animal species, which we will touch on a little bit more. Beautiful elephants in the morning. Very good. Gromit, you want to know the most volcanic area? Well, I'm trying to think. There's still an active volcano in Africa. I can't think of its name now, but there were volcanoes all... Oh, that is a nice eagle. Off the top of my head, that looks like a snake eagle. Gromit, I'm trying to think. I think there are still some active volcanoes, but Africa being was the most... What is that, ladies and gentlemen? I wonder if anyone can quickly hashtag SafariLive, tell us if you know what bird that is. I do know what it is, and I'm sure Manu knows what it is. But Gromit, we had a lot of volcanic activity a long time ago, and Africa was very volatile, and now is the most stable continent. There's not too much shifting that's going on, although the Great Rift Valley is still moving apart inches or centimeters every single year. What that's doing underneath the Earth's surface we can only guess at, but there's no actual new volcanic activity happening in Africa. But I could be wrong. I think it's all quite stable, but then it did happen, so what's to stop it happening again? From a geological time perspective, really, our time here on the planet is really, really very small. Indigo bird and Ravinda, it is indeed a snake eagle, but you know which one it is. It's indeed a snake eagle. You see the head is quite sort of buff. He had really orange eyes. He's got a white chest with little flecks on it, but yet is also still quite dark on the top. A lot of people could mistake the colors for a martial eagle, which looks very similar in coloration, but the beak, you can see the beak here, is a little beak, almost like a Wahlberg eagle's beak. Whereas a martial eagle's got an enormous beak and a much bigger bird as well. Sits in there on top of what looks to be a scotia. Not a scotia, a shepherd's tree. Okay, so those of you who guess snake eagle, it is indeed a black-chested snake eagle. And while we continue on and see if we can find up with these lions and then go see Waffles, let's go to Tristan, who is enjoying himself on foot.
Well, good luck, Steve. Hopefully you'll find members of the North Clan. And, well, we are on foot, and we have found what we've basically been looking for, except that it is just little Kalamba on her own. So the track that we're finding is just here in the sand. It's always nice to see, but you can see she's still a little bit smaller than Tandis, ever so slightly. But here are the lobes at the back, and then the toes on the front side here. Now, these tracks are in all likelihood from yesterday evening. And Herbie says this is exactly where Taylor and him had birds alarm calling yesterday evening. So I'm pretty sure this is where she was left, and she's been milling about in this area. The problem is, so far, we haven't found a single track for Tandi as yet. And that means that we probably won't be able to find Kalamba on foot. She's very shy on foot by herself. And so we're a bit kind of nervous of tracking her down by herself. If we can find this track for Tandi, then we can actively follow these. But tracking her on her own is really sometimes just because it scares her, and she ends up moving quite a bit. And it's not really ideal at all, but it's definitely for her from yesterday or last night, milling about in this area. It's such a perfect spot. She's got a big termite mound that she can sit on, and so she can watch what's going going on both sides of this drainage line, and then if something approaches, she's got a number of little places she can go and hide, and little gully sections where she can just go and sit down. What we also heard right now is a leopard sawing just to our northern side. It sounds like maybe on Buffalo's Hook at the moment, but it's definitely come closer since the last time we heard it. Some zebras alarm calling as well, so maybe we'll get a chance for one of these leopards to come back this side. It didn't sound like a male to me though, so it's interesting. Maybe it's Thandi that's on her way back here, but we'll just try and see how we go. We're not going to follow that particular track at the moment. Now, the reason why is, like I say, is because we're trying to actually see if Thandi's come back. If Thandi's come back, then it's going to be a much easier way to track them. Herbie and I have kind of talked about this quite often, is that Tlhalamba often, when she's kind of on her own, she becomes a lot more skittish and a lot more nervous, and she doesn't really like being seen on foot by herself, and so she'll often just kind of dart away, and all we end up doing is chasing her around, and it makes Thandi's job even harder, we know. There's the zebras again. So the zebras have been making quite a bit of noise while we've been sitting here. They're still calling roughly in the direction of where that leopard is sawing. I wonder if maybe, just maybe, not something happening there, some sort of disturbance. We'll go and check it out and see. Obviously, Taylor also picked up lion tracks, which is quite exciting. We're a little far to get back to camp and to be able to then, sort of go and find lions. So we're probably going to not do that this morning. We'll try and do it in the afternoon. But there's definitely some sort of disturbance here from zebras. There's obviously a leopard sawing. So there are things happening on this northern side. It's just, hopefully it all comes a little bit further south. We still probably a little bit too far north for us to be able to find them. It sounds like it's just inside Buffalo's Hook at the moment. But at least we know where Tlhalamba roughly is, and so all we've got to do now over the course of the next kind of day is just keep driving and monitoring this area, and hopefully eventually Thandi starts to come back and we can bump into her in this particular section and see if maybe, just maybe, we can find him. But what I'm doing is I'm obviously trying to walk slowly and carefully and keep our voices down to a degree, because we actually don't really want to disturb her too much. I don't want to make her move more than she has to, and I'm pretty sure that she will hear us, because she's very twitchy when she's on her own. Her ears are up all the time. She doesn't just lie down and rest. She's not like Hosanna, who, gets a bit dopey and takes it very, very easy. She's a lot more alert when she's moving around. But exciting anyway. It's always nice when you find leopard tracks. It'd be nice to find a leopard, more than it would be leopard tracks, but leopard tracks are always good. So Herbie said to me he's just going to check. So this is where they came last night. So Thandi and Tlhalamba moved up this pathway from the east, and then they went this way, and she left Tlhalamba here, and Tlhalamba went down and went and lay in that area. So it's roughly the right place to be. We hopefully find tracks with Thandi somewhere in this general vicinity, and then we can actually actively follow them a bit better. Until we do, though, I'll send you back across to Taylor, who, well, has already found what she was looking for this morning in the form of Hosanna at Twin Dams.
We have, and oh, sorry, Sebastian, I don't think has got comms. Sorry about that, everybody. Hosanna has been moving around just slightly, and we are in a bit of a dodgy spot at the moment. But our spotted friend over here is exhausted. He was watching the birds at one point. He was very entertained by them. So he's not up to too much. I don't think we'll stick here for too long. I'm hoping that another vehicle decides to come and hang around with him so that we can continue searching for lions, because that would be epic if we were able to find them. I just don't know where their tracks go. So and then we're also having some fun. We had vehicle trouble just now where we couldn't start the car. The car wouldn't start. So I don't know if Rusty is just cold like Hosanna and needs to sit in the sun for a little bit. But he doesn't look like he's eaten anything at all. So he probably tried to catch something last night but was unsuccessful, and now is sulking at Twin Dams. I think that's exactly what's going on. I'm also just listening out. I'm going to do that now. Let's just see if we can hear anything in the bush. Not very much at all. Just kind of all the birds just slowly starting to wake up, although they were busy. There was a crested francolin outside my room, at about 4 a.m. this morning. It was awake. It was pitch black outside. Now, Crystal, it's fairly easy to tell the difference between a leopard and a lion track. Now, leopard tracks are very, very round. Obviously, it's quite difficult. I cannot get out of the car here. But perhaps when Tristan finds a leopard track or a lion track, he can kind of show you exactly what they look like. So leopard tracks obviously much smaller than a lion track. Even a big male leopard track is smaller than a female lion track. And they're a lot rounder. So I do find with, obviously we know with lioness tracks, is that their track is, the length of it is more than the width. So it's almost like a rectangular track. That leopard track is oval, if you will. So yeah, much smaller. They just look slightly different. It's kind of hard to describe to the untrained eye, but once you start seeing the same track, you know, often, you can kind of work it out. Now, if a leopard were to walk over lion tracks, that would be very difficult because it, you know, it might just look like a sub-adult lion's track. Obviously, their feet are growing and are in interesting proportions, so that can be a bit confusing at times. But otherwise, it's fairly easy to be able to differentiate between the two. Oh, the chorus is beautiful. It'd actually be really nice to be in the Mulwati now, just for the sounds of the bush. And now it's a pity. There were some birds and things up in this tree over here. There were some Retz's helmet shrikes that came through. They were all, you can see this leadwood is beautiful because it's out in the open. But unfortunately, they've all moved away. But that is a very, very pretty color to have against the bright blue sky. It's going to be a scorcher here, and I'm sure it's going to be hot down in Kenya. It seems like there's a hyena, and I'm not sure if I heard correctly, but it might be a little bit sick.
Yes, well, a little bit of a sad scene. Spotted a hyena in the road. We thought it was playing some games, was rolling around and falling on its bottom, but both of its back legs are completely gone. It's managed to pull itself off of the road. We're not sure what has happened to its back legs. Whether it maybe got bitten by other hyenas. Both of its back legs are completely not working. So this individual, unfortunately, will not. I don't know if it'll make it. It's a very sad scene to see. I'm sorry, folks. You see both of its back legs are completely in... not for sensitive viewers. Even its front right foot doesn't look great. Breathing quite heavily. Probably been putting in quite a bit of effort to move around in the last little while. Doesn't seem to be any obvious wounds that I can see. Can you, Manu? Just the two back legs. There's a wound on the top that in the inner thigh there. Looks like a wound in the inner thigh. I could have essentially severed a tendon or something there in the leg, which would make that leg completely unusable. Whether that's from a lion or from another hyena is very hard to tell, folks. We were not here. We're only bearing witness to what has possibly happened. There's blood all over the front leg as well. Even on the face there's some blood. So this is quite sad to see. Might have been a clan dispute. You can see their head. Okay, well, folks, we're going to leave this animal to itself and go back down to South Africa, to Tristan Dix, still on foot.
Well, unfortunate sometimes when you see things like that. It can be always a little bit disturbing and tough to see, and so I'm sure Steve wants to rather just leave that animal in peace and let it carry on, and I'm sure he'll contact the relevant people in order to sort it out. Anyway, we are still kind of walking around up in this northern side at the moment, still listening out. Unfortunately, it seems as though these calls that we're hearing are definitely north of us. I mean, we're right up on the boundary at the moment, and so it's definitely not within an area that we can find. I see that there are tracks here. I'm just having a little look quickly just to see. So it looks like hyena tracks that came through there. So lots and lots of hyenas. I just thought maybe I saw a leopard track in amongst them, but it looks like mostly hyena, although, yes, no, they're all hyena tracks so far. So interesting to see how kind of the hyenas have moved around over the last few days. But there's also a leopard track. I thought I saw one in amongst it. So there we go. There is the track of what is making the noise. I'm pretty sure is Tingana's track. So Tingana must have walked here last night as well, and it's him that we're hearing calling. Yeah, I thought it sounded a little bit more kind of feminine than Tingana's call, but I suppose it's so far away it's difficult to know for sure. But it's most definitely him. You can compare the size of this to kind of what we saw just now with Kalamba. Kalamba's track, probably the toes would have ended somewhere there, midway around the sort of the toes of Tingana, so somewhere in that sort of general area would be the size of Kalamba's track in comparison to Tingana's, which is much, much larger. So he must have walked here fairly recently. I'm pretty sure this is the leopard that Louise heard calling earlier, and it's the same leopard we're hearing calling as we've been going. So he obviously came past this area, and we thought he might head this direction. We might have picked up on Tundi's tracks going past this kind of treehouse dam area, given that he probably went there for water after that kill and then followed them all the way along. And I wonder if he joined up with Kalamba. He could have very well have done so and kind of then gone up northwards into Buffalo's Hook, but it's definitely him that we're hearing calling going north. So he's actually heading further away from us rather than towards us, which is not ideal at all. So we're not having much luck this morning when it comes to our leopards. He came out of there along that pathway, so he came right from that drainage line where we had found Kalamba's tracks as well. These leopards sometimes So Sarah, I mean, a lot of that kind of thing we don't really fully understand what it is, whether it's a visual cue that Tundi gives or a verbal one. There's definitely some sort of cue that is given to the cub to tell it that's where you stay. And obviously a lot of the time what I've witnessed is cubs start to follow their mom. She'll then growl at them when she wants them to stay and hiss, and that cub then knows to stay there. It will move and shift and drift a little bit, but that's generally only with kind of curiosity. But they don't go far. They don't go like a kilometer away. They'll go maybe 100 meters, 200 meters, and then when she comes, she'll call, and that cub will then come back to that area. Now, I see Herbie's busy looking at tracks in front of me at the moment, so I don't know what you're looking at. Herbie, are you looking at tracks? What are you looking at, Herbie? Oh, you're looking at... So Herbie's busy checking tracks that are on the road, so these are the ones that he was looking at over here. What do you reckon, Herbie? Frog. That is two there. Now that's interesting. At first I thought maybe a frog, but it's not. Now that I see this one over here, it gives a much better indication. That's a much better track to look at. So maybe we should do a little quiz. What does everybody think? I would suggest that we send through a kind of answer on #SafariLive on Twitter or FC Chat. We can try and get some answers to what that track is. I'll put my finger next to it so you guys can see a bit of a size scale, and that's what it'll give you. It's kind of going forward, and you can look at the motion of it, which should give you a good indication of what it actually is. But very cool to see. It's not something that you see all that often on the road, so very, very nice, clean version of that particular animal's track, which, like I say, is not the most common track to see. Now, unfortunately, like I say, the tracks for the leopard have kind of gone northwards, so I'm just trying to think now where we're going to head. We're probably, I would imagine, going to cut quite far east now and try and then start working our way southwards. Maybe try to give Taylor a hand with those lion tracks. It's quite a long way from where we are, so in fact, the opposite end of the property, but we know lions can move quite quickly. So while we do that, we'll try and kind of figure out where we're going to go. Anyway, in the meantime, let's send you back across to Steve, who's left that hyena and has now found himself another hyena, but this one is far more mobile.
Yes, well, folks, the hyena managed to pull itself off the road. There's a second one that's coming in. We're not quite sure if this is a friend or foe, but on close investigation, the hyena that was injured has moved and showed numerous bite marks on the thighs, on the back of the legs, on the front legs, on the chest. You can see that one's even got a mark on the neck and on the face. It was covered in bite marks, and this hyena is sniffing it out. It's managed to pull itself off the road, and it's fallen into a ditch just on the side here, maybe a drainage culvert. I'm not 100% sure, but this hyena is not far away. and it'd be interesting to see exactly what might happen if it finds it. Is it going to behave nicely, or will there might be some more negative behavior? It could have been hyenas that did it. I mean, the bite marks to me don't seem like those that lions would have inflicted. What do you think, Hanu? Manu?
I think it's a hyena.
Yeah, just the way it looked, just as if it might have been a low-ranking hyena that got caught, or maybe it got caught by another clan. The bite marks are right there on the back, sort of around the hips, almost as if the tummy, close to the genital area. There are a number of bite marks there as well. It's kind of places where hyena, when it sort of backs down, they get surrounded, and often other individual hyena will come from the back. We saw that very graphic image of Scott's hyena down in Djuma that got its back foot completely broken, and a similar case seems to have happened here. This fat-looking hyena here is sniffing around, trying to find. It's not far away. If it crosses the road exactly like that again, it will find it. Well, we wanted to find some hyena this morning. Waffle's den. We have found 2 other hyena, and we're not sure who they are. An old wound on the neck seems to have healed. Wisteria, I've honestly never seen it. I've never seen a hyena eating another hyena. But then my experience, honestly, spending time with large clans is quite limited. I wonder if, Lou, if you can tell me if we've ever seen a hyena eating another one. I'm not 100% sure. I wouldn't say it's not possible. It possibly does happen. I mean, these guys eat all sorts of things, and waste not, want not. Okay, so Lou's saying that Brent saw up here in the Mara a hyena cannibalizing a hyena carcass. So, it's not... I don't think it's the worst thing in the world in the animal kingdom. The energy is still at least flowing. But I don't think hyena will kill another hyena to eat it. They kill it just the same as lions and leopards will kill other predators. They kill them because they're competition. And then after that deed is done, sometimes, and it's not always the case, that predator will eat the predator that they've killed. So I don't think they kill them to eat them. They're not looking for sustenance through that animal. But as opportunistic animals as they are, they will often feed on something that is available. Very sad, though. I don't know how long or how many days this hyena would survive without the use of its back legs. It did seem to be bleeding as well. They are quite resilient, these animals, to wounds, but lack of mobility, it could be a problem. Shadowy pancakes, I'm not sure if the hyena would necessarily come in and kill it to put it out of its misery as a mercy call. In nature, invariably, is very cruel, and animals are just left to suffer. It's one of those things that is part of the natural world. This individual hyena is moving away. It's trying to pick up on the scent of it. It knows it's here somewhere. There's lots of long grass, and there's a big hole that has fallen in. So a mercy kill. No, I've never known of a hyena coming and going, well, let me put you out of your misery. But then I don't know the standing of these two. Are they friend or foe? Maybe it's a family member that's coming to find out. I heard some commotion this side. Maybe there was a clan warfare. We found, not far from where we are now, we found a big group of, we think, what Manu thought was North Clan members last night. But then apparently there's also an Olololo clan not far from here. So we're kind of on a bit of a territorial boundary. I've spotted a few enormous piles of hyena dung in the grass in and around the road where we are. Maybe a signpost. And it does happen. These clans do quite often converge on each other and find themselves in each other's territory. And it does happen with those jaws. An individual can get separated, and if it gets separated and set upon by 3, maybe 10, maybe 15, well, there's absolutely no chance. No chance at all. And the only thing that they can do is to basically put their bottom on the floor and turn their jaws in an effort to defend themselves. We've seen Njuma hyena doing that against a pack of dogs. Managed to put its bottom into the bushes though. Same sort of method and protect itself, but it's the only way it was able to survive. But out here there's not many bushes to put your bottom into, and it could easily get surrounded. Well, this hyena is doing a complete loop around us. Maybe it will find this individual here. We don't know. Very sad scenes here in the Mara. But remember, folks, this is 100% nature, and you know, sometimes we just have to witness. But in the meantime, I believe Taylor is on the tracks of who knows who the lions are. But let's go see if she's had any luck.
We're slowly starting to narrow it down. We picked up on the tracks again. They go across the Mulwati, then they go across Mamba, and we're on Battalier Road now. If they don't come out here, we need to check the Mulwati further down. Then we know that they're in here. They're in this block, like for certain, because the ground is lovely and soft here, and you can kind of see the footprint. Well, in most of the spots anyway. So I haven't seen much. There was also a herd of elephants. Are those hyena that side, eh, Seb? Just down here. Okay, hyena, just quadruple check. Also, yes, I can copy you. Standing by. Someone on the radio is like, okay, they just found Tandy and Tlalamba on Gallagher shortcut. I think Tristan needs to come back to camp and get in a car, because now there's too many sightings. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but Tandy and Tlalamba are Gallagher shortcut. They are, I'm just listening, relaying everything to you now. It sounds like they're going north in the block there. Okay, wonderful. So they found the animals Tristan was looking for. Okay, I'm just going to turn that down. I thought someone was going to say, we've got the lions, and now we know the lions are here somewhere. Oh yeah, we don't have another vehicle. Wendy's broken. So annoying. Oh well. Yes, I went to Wendy this morning to get her ready, and I saw that all the brake fluid had leaked out, so there was a line that has been clipped. So hopefully that car can be repaired ASAP. I keep forgetting that we don't have Wendy. Oh, that's so no. That's no good. Oh well. Right. We'll just keep searching then. I'm probably not going to race towards Tandy, especially if they're going into the block. I'm going to carry on searching for lions because I'm exceptionally far away. So we'll try here and stay this side. Okay, still nothing here. I'm just checking carefully now. When they hunt, they don't necessarily walk in a line. They're kind of like spread out. Let me turn that off. I don't need the game drive radio anymore, actually. Sorry, let me do this. Turn the volume down. Right, so when they do cross the road, they're not necessarily all going to cross at the same time. They could cross one here, four behind us. So you've got to check very, very carefully. I don't know where. I don't know where they would have gone because there's no tracks here yet. And not much sign of buffalo. Right, well, we'll keep on scratching around here and going very slowly, and hopefully we have some lions for you. Or if you go to Tristan, who I believe has got some answers to a quiz.
Well, we do, and it's also, we're a little bit on the frustrated side, and I'll tell you why. Because where they found Tandy and Tlalamba is right here. We can actually hear the impala's alarm calling, so we were pretty much on the tracks, and we were about to kind of get into that right area to find her track. She's actually come from the wrong side. We thought she'd come from the east, but she's actually come from the western side, and they are moving straight at us, basically. So we would have bumped into these leopards in the space of about 5 minutes, but somebody else just caught them on the road before we kind of got there. So Anyway, it's the way it goes. It's sometimes like that. So we can hear the impala's alarm calling, and we're going to stick around in case the guys say to us that they're really struggling to keep up with her. So we'll stick around in case we can kind of just help them be able to figure out where she's moving by alarm calls and those kind of things. But it's a bit frustrating because I was hoping that we would find her tracks first. And like I said, if we find her tracks, then we'd be able to find her. But either way, it's good that the two of them have been found together. I can still hear the impalas. They're literally this side, but they're quite far now. It sounds like maybe about 150, 200 meters from where we are, maybe a little bit more than that, where they're shouting. But a bit frustrating because, like I say, had there not been a car here, we would have found her quite quickly there. Anyway, it's the way it goes. But believe that there are some answers about our tracking and our quiz that we gave you guys. Maple, a bushveld gerbil? No, so unfortunately not. Close though. I mean, gerbils do have a hopping kind of motion or bounding motion when they run. So close, but no too big for a bushveld gerbil. If you looked at that track and the frequency of the kind of movement was quite far between each footprint, so it was about that distance between each one. So it would have to be a very, very large gerbil to bound in that frequency and that distance. So no, not a gerbil, unfortunately, but it's a good guess. They do have a bounding motion to their run as well. Chris, you say porcupine? No, far too small for a porcupine. Porcupine tracks are probably, if the length of the track would probably be almost about my palm size, not maybe as wide, but definitely as long. So porcupine have very big feet, and so those are way too small for a porcupine. Remember that the size of that track was pretty much my index finger, so not a porcupine either. Also, the gait was wrong for a porcupine. Porcupines don't bound. Sorry, so who was the name again? Sorry, Louise, I didn't hear that. Tim, an ostrich? No, that would have to be the world's smallest ostrich. In fact, it would not even be a newborn ostrich to have a track like that. An ostrich has got a massive, massive foot, huge big toe that comes forward with a big nail, and then another one on the side. So if you had any tiny baby ostrich tracks, you'd also have a mother or a father there. You very seldom actually would see just an ostrich by itself, so of that size. And I mean, that would be a brand newborn, and I think even then it would be too small for an ostrich. So no, not an ostrich, Tim. Ooh, careful. Aaron, Gonway, a snail. Well, yes, you are right, Aaron. It is a snail. We get a lot of bounding snails out here. The snails in Africa are quite something. They go along, and then when they get a fright, they kind of jump like this, and then they end up landing a little bit further ahead. And so they've got lots of jumping motions when they're a little bit shy. That's called the scaredy cat snail, and they're a little bit tricky to see, quite hard to find. Generally in the evenings is when you look for them, and so that's why it's kind of, no, I'm joking, it's not a snail. I'm afraid a snail leaves a very long trail and very easy to tell, and also not wet enough for snails at the moment. I will tell you exactly what it is shortly, but this is exactly where Tlalamba walked past us. So we were 50 meters to the east of where this is, and she's walked right past us during the course of this morning. So this is her track kind of just edging past us. Exactly what I was saying is that she won't find her on foot. She knew we were there, and she just came out from where we first had those tracks and has walked 50 meters from us, and we had no idea she was even here. But anyway, she's walked past. You can hear the alarm calls further down there. But I will put you guys out of your misery in terms of this track. It is a very tricky one, and probably very few of you would have gotten this. So I'm going to show you on my phone so that you can understand what we've got. But basically what we have, turn it down a bit, there we go, is that good, Vildy? So basically you've got the track over here, and then the bounding motion to the, actually coming this way, sorry, we're going the wrong way, but this is the first track, and then this is the second track here. Now you've got these lines that kind of going out like this and out like that. What this is for a lesser bush baby. So this is a bush baby that's been bounding on the road. It is a tricky one. It's not an easy one at all. But that kind of V shape that you get there is the opposable thumb that's coming out. These are the toes coming forward, and the opposable thumb coming out and the toes coming forward, and then like that. Initially, when I first saw it, I thought maybe frog, which they will leave a very similar track like that. But this was too big and the distance was quite long. And once it kind of, Herbie showed me the first track, I was a bit unsure. But when he showed me the second one, and it was a lot more open, open, it was very clear that it was a little lesser bush baby. And so you just have to look for those thumbs on the V-shaped track, and you very much kind of get it. It's too small for a vervet monkey, and it's very uniform, and it's got that bounding motion as they've jumped down the road. So it's a very cool track to see, not one that you get to see that often, but we're very, very lucky to kind of seen it. Right, anyway, we're going to kind of rethink what we're going to do now, because our primary target has now been found, or both and secondary, so try and find what we can. But in the meantime, let's send you back across to Steve, who is looking at a striped animal that is roaming the plains.
Yes, we have got a bit of traffic this morning, folks. A little bit of feistiness in these couple of young male zebras. All fun and games out in the African wilderness. See how they go for the back legs. It's quite similar sort of behavior to what the hyena would have done to the individual that we saw. Always the nipping at the back, and a little bit of nipping at the neck as well. See how the ears go flat. If anybody knows anything about horses, you know when a horse's ears go flat, it's going to bite you. You see that behavior. It's all body language in zebra. Huge amounts of body language. Horses are the same. And you can see the ears aren't. There we go. See them come down again. The chase is on. There's going to be a kick to the face soon. Bite, bite. So important play that's going on here. We've got quite a large group of zebra intermingled with some wildebeest. And this is the beginnings of their, probably, they're sub-adults, I'd say. They might be young adults. They're not doing anything too aggressive, but it's important elements to be able to capture your ladies when the time comes, is to be able to compete with males, especially when there are so many individuals watching. If you ever want to have a chance to breed, you need to be able to fight for that opportunity and to secure the mates through physical confrontation. So for those of you out there who are braving the Monday morning traffic, my heart goes out for you. This is our Monday morning traffic here up in the Mara. A little bit more pleasing to the eye. Chris, I'm not sure. I think it's just a slight play of the light, really, on the end of the hair there. It's just the way that the light trickles in. The male has quite fine hairs, standing up bristly. There we go. He's having a little bit of an ear munch. If you didn't like someone, you wouldn't be giving his ear a little bit of a nibble. And maybe that is a little bit of a courting display. Possibly a male on the left and a female. No. A little bit of play going on again. Yeah, they're whispering sweet nothings into each other's ear, Louise, correct? Beautiful to spend time with animals behaving in their normal state. They have survived the evening. They have survived the numerous lion prides in the area. And that is time for celebration. There is still an abundance of grass. They've probably fed enormous amounts. And time to re-establish certain bonds within the hierarchy. And when the zebra come out to play in these massive groups, it's a very good time to not only play, but also to reintroduce yourselves or introduce yourselves to all of the other families that are around. Zebra social structure, very similar to what we find in South Africa. Just because there's an enormous group of them doesn't mean they're one group. If you had to separate the mean game and his females and youngsters, they come up because the food is in abundance. Terribly sorry about any audio issues we might have there, folks. Lots of zebra having a bit of a play. But so they come together in these huge groups because food is in abundance. Down in South Africa, we don't see them in such big numbers. The food is quite scarce. Although not large group moving to the east, to where the soil is rich and lots of nutrients and good grazing. Out here, the grazing is splendid. so they can afford to be in really large groups. There's not that much competition between them. Plenty of space, plenty of food, and plenty of ladies to show off to. And good chance the ones that are always jostling are males, as is always the case in most societies. The ones being more boisterous are indeed boys. It's quite interesting. We were driving home last night and had some zebra walking towards us at the light, and they were actually quite visible in the background. They were, even though they're black and white, such an obvious angle, they sort of melt away, which is quite interesting to see. It's the first time I've seen a zebra in an open grassland just melt away like that. Okay, well, sorry about my audio issues. We're going to take you back on down to Taylor in Djuma and see where she's getting on with those tracks.
We're winning, almost. We've got lion tracks over buffalo tracks. I'm trying to find a really nice one to show you now because it's one of the coolest things to see. But there's a specific kind of track that I'm looking for. I want it to be set up. The buffalo have been running around and the lions have been chasing them. Now we need to figure out which buffalo they took down and where are the lions now. This is the mystery we're going to solve. We're going to try to. It's a huge section that they could be in. We're in Hyena Road at the moment. Just want to go up a little bit further. All the commotion happened behind us. Now I don't really see anything here at all. So they could be, goodness, they actually could be anywhere. It's kind of hard to say. But it's very exciting. I think we'll get them eventually. And if you guys are saying there were distress calls, the chances of them catching a buffalo or have caught a buffalo is quite high. There's a number of them now. It didn't look like a monstrous herd that they were going after, which would work in their favor. Okay, so there's no tracks up here. Just gonna find a place to turn around. Then we'll go back. Then I don't know. Then I need to kind of go and first check again. I think Tristan might be a little. Actually, I don't think Tristan is too far from us, but I think he's trying to find Tandy and Tlalamba. But if he can't, and there's too many vehicles around, it would be nice if he comes east, because these things are either between Gari Cut Line and Hyena Road, or Hyena Road, Buffelshoek Dam, and Inyala Road North. Those are their only options. Okay, so they haven't come up here. Go back down. Jen, I don't know. I don't think I've said once which Pride of Lions this is. It could either be the Styx Pride, it could be the Nkuhuma Pride, it could be the Telemates, it could be a number of different Prides of Lions. So I don't know. I haven't got a clue as to who's here. Both the Styx and the Nkuhumas have been just south of Djuma boundary, so it could be either of them. There's quite a few lions here though. There's an entire pride, that's for sure. So I'm thinking it's either going to be the Styx or the Nkuhumas, and both of them venture all over. So it's very difficult to tell. Unfortunately, underneath on their pads they don't have, you know, NK or S to tell them which pride, you know, it is as they walk, and they leave a little mark on the ground. That doesn't happen, even though I kind of wish it would. I'm also just thinking, if they're going to drink water, where would they drink water? If no one has seen them at Vuatelapan, they're probably not there. They're probably going to be using Buffelshoek Dam as a watering source. So I think, I don't know what to do, Seb. Do you want to check there first? There's just, unfortunately, there's no one helping us this morning try and find the line, so we're having to check every single area, and it's very hard to tell from these tracks. So this is where the commotion is happening. They were just chasing buffalo around and around all over here. Everything is flattened. I don't see any lions just off of the road, but I think we should check Buffelshoek Dam. Let's just have a quick look. So we're going to go, I think, Inyala Road North all the way up, and then we'll come back down. Then we'll go along Buffelshoek boundary, check that they didn't cross out, straight down Gowrie cut line and then back along Central. And then, I mean, we know that they're in this area, but hopefully we'll just get 1 or 2 more tracks that'll kind of pinpoint what it is. And then I'll jump off the car once we're a bit more certain as to which block they're in, and then I'll try and find them that way. Right, anyways, Tristan is trying to do the same thing, but with leopards. Let's go see if he's can hear the vehicles and if she's any closer.
Well, Tandi's very close, and we're not far from her at all. Unfortunately, we can't actually see her at the moment. There's obviously vehicles that are around. They lost visual of her, and so we came to try and give them a hand, but they've just found her again, and she's lying down not far from us. We can actually see from here, we can see the impalas that were shouting just now when we were talking about the track. So they're just straight across from us on it. There's a little dip here, and then they're straight on the other side. Now there's a hyena milling about between them and us, and then she's off more to the right-hand side of where we are. So she's kind of behind all of this thicket. She's just lying down there with little Kalalamba. So we were very, very, very close to her, and it was the right idea to have come back into this area. She had to come back and get the cub, but generally that means that there must be food around somewhere. I wonder if she doesn't have a kill somewhere close by here, that she's either come to fetch Kalalamba and she's still on her way back there, or it is actually right here and she's managed to find something. But she must have been contact calling, and given how soft they can contact call, it just goes to show you how amazing their senses are. That Kalalamba could hear it and we heard nothing. I mean, we weren't walking noisily, we were quiet as we were going, and we didn't hear anything. But Kalalamba must have heard her, because the way Kalalamba moved was straight in this direction, and then they've met up on the road here. And like I said, there's a vehicle that just came past and happened to bump into them on the road, and had they not been here, we would have picked up those alarm calls and would have been able to find them. So it's win some, lose some. It's the way it goes. It's sometimes kind of like that. Now I know Taylor's busy tracking, so we thought we'd just sit here for a little bit and just see maybe these leopards were still moving about. We might get lucky and get a visual of them from here, but it seems as though they've laid down, and if they've laid down, well, then there's no real chance that we're going to be able to get in there, because all the cars are going to be there. But I don't know if we're going to be able to get to Taylor either, because Taylor's on the opposite side of the property. We'd have to really march if we were to get there and give her a hand. So kind of being foiled at every turn at the moment, which I don't like. I like it when things go a little bit more according to plan than this. But either way, we thought we'd try and see if we could get something from here, and as it's turned out, it's not going to be possible. They were walking straight towards us, so our plan was just to sit here on the mound and maybe just get a view of them coming straight at us. But unfortunately, like I said, she's laid down now, which makes life a little more tricky in terms of actually being able to see her. So I think we'll carry on probably and see what else we can go and find. If these guys lose her, we won't be too far and we can come and help them again. So Amanda, no, that the opposite is true. If she stops marking her territory, she's actually putting her cub in more danger, and the reason why is that other females will start to encroach. We saw it with Karula. When she disappeared, then Tandi and Shadow, it didn't take long for the two of them to start sucking in to that area and starting to take over. So there would be a lot more danger for Kalalamba if Tandi actually stopped marking. Her marking territory is actually keeping other females away and keeping this area safe for Kalalamba to grow up in and to become a part of the ecosystem and part of this territory. So without that, she's going to be in a lot more trouble, and we're going to see a lot more females pushing into this area, which Shadulu would probably push further to the east. You might find Kuchava pushing north a little bit. So it would be something that Tandi wouldn't do at all. She would try and keep her cubs safe by marking. And the thing is that if she's marking, the only male theoretically that should be kind of tracking her down would be a male that perceives her to be an estrus, which we know that she's not when she's with Kalalamba, and so she probably in all likelihood Tingana tracks her down because he knows her. But other than that, there's very few males that will kind of actively sniff out Tandi and look for her. There's no real reason to, unless she's got a kill or she's an estrus. The males just generally will carry on. But I wonder, some part of me kind of wonders if maybe Tingana, Tandi and Kalalamba all met at some point this morning and actually were together. I don't think so though. I think Tandi and Kalalamba just met right now, but it would be interesting. He was also around. I wonder if maybe he met up with her, didn't see any food and carried on again. But it's a little on the frustrating side, like I said, just careful there, yeah? On the frustrating side that we didn't manage to find her and get her on screen. Sorry, Louise, I didn't catch all of that. If you can just repeat it for me. Yeah. Yes. So, H-Waker, it's very true. I do sound like a cartoon villain because I've gone rats. We've been foiled again. But it's true, we have been foiled again. And it's all, I suppose, luck for the people that found her, but also a little bit frustrated because... Exactly, if it wasn't for you kids and that damn dog. Exactly, Louis. So anyway, it's the way it goes. It's, can't win all of them, and so at least we kind of put people into the right area and told them about the tracks in this section that they actually found, and hopefully we'll get a sighting of it. Right, good. So we're going to think about what we're going to do now. I'm really not sure. We're kind of just ambling at the moment, and I'm not sure which way we're going to go, but as soon as we figure it out, we'll kind of head in that direction. In the meantime, though, let's send you back to Steve, who is with the migration.
Well, we're trying, Tristan. Good luck down that side. I hope you do manage to relocate on her. Well, Manu spotted in the distance this herd of wildebeest that was bunched together quite tightly, and he assures me that that's quite often an indication that they're being hunted. The herd mentality to keep up together, to stay in one group. And now, one by one, they're slowly moving off, and the front runners moving quite quickly away. It's possible that they had bedded down for the night in this open area. And now it's time to go and, I don't know, go somewhere else, I suppose. There's lots of green grass everywhere. And I wonder who decides who's going to be the one in front. No one wants to be the first one, and no one wants to be the last one. That's why often when you look at the herd, when it moves off, they all start running, because no one wants to be the last one. Barbara, essentially the animals out here are constantly underneath the cuff when it comes to predation, so it is just what they do. How do people who live in cities deal with the stress of traffic? You just deal with it. It's part and parcel of livelihood. See, the animals out here are constantly alert, constantly on their toes, or should I say on their nails, and they stay in groups, and so obviously you don't want to be wandering off on your own. We bypassed a topee on its own just now, and it's not ideal to be on your own out here. You can barely see anything. I don't think we'd be able to see a lion walking in this long grass, so we got to look for the signs of the animals. So by bunching up together and by staying as a group, that is the best thing that you can do, and by trying to shield the youngsters inside. But in essence, what you see there is a herd of animals that are all actually 100% selfish. Mum and child would be obviously a collective unit, but the rest of them, they don't really care about each other. They don't care about the neighbor. It's all about their own survival. And so that's why they hang out in groups. The groups obviously make it more difficult for the predators to catch an individual, but it also means that you've got much higher chance of it not being you. So that, I suppose, is how it works. If they had to be on their own, without anyone around, well, there's far less eyes and ears to detect predators. So that is where the herding mentality has come from in wild animals. And obviously the animals that tended to many years ago to hang out on their own, well, they got selectively picked off and those genetic traits left. So that's why animals herd. We talk about domestication of animals and domesticated sheep, the first type of sort of sheep that was domesticated. And those that hung out together and stayed under the watchful eye of the shepherd were bred and were kept. Those individuals that wandered off, well, they were left to wander off and they were left to die, because that genetic trait we didn't want as a sort of a shepherd sort of mentality. You want your sheep to stay together if you want to keep them alive. If they're going to just go wander off on their own, first of all, it's hard to find them, and second of all, predators will pick them off very easily. So I'm going to move up a little bit, see if we can find the front of this herd. I'm not sure where they're headed to. I don't think any of the wildebeest in the Mara know exactly where they're going. They just seem to be bouncing between here and there. Very good, Manu. Bob, that's a great question. It's a great question. I mean, I don't think they would look for a weak predator and kill it. They invariably want to stay away from the predators. But if they do see one, I mean, buffalo is a very good example, will kill a predator if they can. but they won't go out looking for them to say, where are these animals? They will, if they come near them, they'll sort them out. So it's quite an interesting thing. For example, there's a lot of agriculture that happens in Africa, and a lot of people have livestock and they want to live, some people want to live in harmony with wildlife, so we don't want to go shooting all of the predators. So there are ways and means of protecting your livestock by keeping certain animals with them. And one of them is a donkey. A donkey will kill a leopard if it can. It will kill a caracal. I've seen footage of them killing caracals. They become very protective. Sorry, we have a little bit of a situation in the road here where we have animals crossing. I'm not going to use the joke because it is way past that time. So a donkey will kill any. Well, I think I've seen footage of it killing a caracal. Anatolian sheepdogs are very large dogs that are print sheep, and it's a very good way. It's working very well as sheepdogs with the goats and the sheep and the cattle, and they print these animals. And if any predator comes near, they aggressively respond to that predator. And predators invariably don't like being responded to. They like animals to run away. When you run away from a lion or a leopard, they like to chase you, or a jackal or a caracal. But when you run at it, what happens? Female wildebeest have their offspring. Any animal, including hyena, that comes towards the youngsters, the adult will actually turn and chase that predator away. Because it is a baby, it is a youngster, and that is why females have horns. And they will, if they can, kill it, but invariably they try and drive it off. But the very able to avoid the horns. But it seems we are losing some more audio over here. We do apologize. Let's go back down to Tristan Dix on Bushwalk.
Well, hopefully Steve gets sorted out and is able to fix his issues. But what's happening now is that the guys said that they've battling to keep visual of Thandi and Kalamba, and if we could come and help them. So we've just moved back into the area, which is a bonus for us because hopefully we're going to be able to get a view. They said the last time they saw her was kind of moving in this general direction. So what we're trying to do is just try and see if we can pick up a view. It's a very difficult area for vehicles. You can see a lot of fallen over trees. It's really not easy. I know I've followed leopards through here. It is probably one of the more tricky areas to actually be able to see a leopard and to actually move with the leopard in a vehicle. And so being on foot is going to help us. We can hear where the car is, and where they last saw her was somewhere in this general vicinity. And so what we're trying to do is just trying to see if we can give them a little bit of a hand and figure out where exactly she's gone. She's somewhere around here, and so hopefully we can get a little view on them and give them a bit of help to be able to relocate where she is. They said to me that she was kind of lying down and then up and moving, and then down and then up and moving. So she seems to be kind of doing her thing and kind of moving about a little bit more than normal. And I can see where the car is, so they're trying to figure out where exactly she is as well. So she should be somewhere in this general vicinity here, which would hopefully mean we'll get a view of her somewhere in front. So JM Thandi at the moment is 12. She's a little bit of an older female, which means that she's probably going to only have one more cubs, or set of cubs, hopefully more than just one, in her next litter. So she's really an older individual, and it's going to be interesting whether Kuchava, Kalamba, or any of them are they going to be the successors to the kind of throne in terms of the Karula lineage. So I'm hoping that it will be one of the two. Now I'm just trying to look through here. There's a very dense thick area. You can see Herbie's in front of us. He's busy looking and trying to kind of figure out what's going on. This thicket is not an easy place to find leopards at all, and so we're going to try and just kind of sneak forward a little bit and see. I'm sure she's lying down somewhere in here in the shade. Maybe we'll just get lucky with a view of her on foot. Herbie seems as though he might have spotted her, so let's go slowly along and just try and figure it out. The vehicle obviously can't negotiate a thicket like this, and so that's what makes it very tricky for them to be able to see what's happening. So we're going to just try and kind of go slowly forward. I still can't see anything. Kind of making our way roughly towards where Aubrey is at the moment so he can show us a little bit better. Herbie said he thought he saw them, but you can see what we're dealing with on the left-hand side here is very, well, my right now, is very, very dense. Lots and lots of tamboti trees, which make it quite thick and very hard to negotiate. Lots of also undulating terrain. So hopefully for us, we'll be able to get a view of her. If we just sneak through here, a vehicle won't be able to get in there, but we definitely can. So we'll try and kind of figure it out. It's just going to slowly go. You can see where Aubrey is in front of us. He's trying to kind of just direct us where he last saw them, kind of moving. So hopefully we should get them here. Now we're just going to go up this bank very, very slowly and try and keep our voices down as much as possible. Even though there's a car moving and she can hear that, our voices are very different on foot than they are in a vehicle. So it's all about just staying nice and quiet and trying to see if we can maybe get a view. Now let's just try and slowly head forward. Now she should be somewhere in this thicket. So watch where we place our feet as well as we go. So I think she's maybe moved. No, that's not her. So we're going to try and just figure out where to go. There's lots of things that look like leopards when you're looking for them, so you've always got to be a bit careful about the way that you look. Now Herbie, who's got eagle eyes, is trying to spot her. I don't see her yet, to be honest. Seems like she might have moved, so we're just trying to get a little closer quickly. Now these mounds are the perfect place because you can get a bit of elevation up and maybe see where she's gone. Now, okay, so she's here in front. Now Herbie spotted her. She's just moved away through. I don't see her now. Can you still see her, Herbie? This thicket, okay, so where the termite mound is where she's moved. So Herbie spotted her. I haven't seen her yet, but she must be in that kind of section there. So we're just going to try and see if we can hold on tight and just have a little look. There she is, there she is. I can see her now, Vian. So straight through behind that termite mound, there she goes. So that's Tundi that just moved. She's going to the left at the moment. So I think if we maybe move a little bit more to the left, we might get her. Right, now, while we figure this out and try and get a better view of her and see if we can, I'm going to send you across to Taylor, who apparently has found a tree climbing impala.
We have found a tree climbing decapitated impala. Now, very, very interesting sort of development this morning. Anyway, so that's up in the tree. It's not a particularly nice tree. It's a tamboti tree, lots and lots of branches. And we know that the only thing that would take it up a tree like this is a leopard. So we're going to do a bit of backtracking now. This carcass has completely been pulled apart. So what I think has happened is that the leopard killed the impala at the dam, at the Wilshoek Dam. Perhaps then managed to take it and start feeding on it and started to disembowel it, where then the hyenas came in and caused a bit of a stir, as they normally do. It's their favorite thing to do. And then tried to obviously take the kill. And I think that some of the kill, like the head and maybe a couple of legs and things like that, were pulled apart. It also looked like there were lots and lots of wild dog tracks, so there might have been a fight between, you know, wild dogs coming in trying to chase a leopard off its kill. That could have happened too. But there are drag marks. I'll show you the drag marks. How we found the kill in the tree. As Seb spotted it, we started following. Where are they? Oh, I think might have driven over some of the, oh, there. You can sort of see it looks like there was a snake in the sand. I'm not going to get out the car anymore. So basically all of that is a drag mark. Just because if there is this leopard in the area, I don't want to be out on foot. Not because I'm scared or anything, I just don't want to chase it away. So as we obviously came in and we investigated on foot, then we brought the vehicle in to do further searching. So look how long this drag mark is. It goes all the way, and you can actually follow it right to the water's edge. There it goes. And then it basically, you won't see it very nicely there because the ground is quite hard. There's the stomach and the lungs. The really, really sort of pink thing on the left is the lungs. And then, this is what I'm confused about, because we were saying hyenas would normally eat something like this. So I don't know if it was maybe then wild dogs that came through and disturbed the sighting, although I would imagine they'd want to eat, they'd just also devour whatever they could. The stomach I'm not surprised about. But anyways, there was some of the kill was actually dragged into the water. You could see where something was feeding on it, and that to me screams hyena. Hyenas typically, I don't know, it's like they like to marinate their food in water. So they tend to do that quite a bit. So, but now we need to figure out where this cat has gone. I think that cat put that kill up in that tree out of pure desperation, because there's quite a few other trees that could have taken it up. But when you're desperate and you're trying to salvage your kill, you'll do whatever you can. Now, we might lose signal here. It's just very dodgy, the spot. We're going to jump out of here now. Okay. Sorry, I have to go down. I don't know why I came up like that. We need to go all the way around. Yeah. Still haven't found the lions. I don't think this had anything to do with the lions, though. And I did just hear that the big herd of buffalo are now on Gari cut line. Okay, so they're somewhere, the lions are still somewhere between here. Right, we're going to continue and try and solve the many mysteries of the bush this morning. However, Steve is stretching his neck and he's looking up into the sky.
Well, we have got a lone giraffe bull moving through the plains. It was not the reason why we stopped. It is a beautiful scene in front of us. Both sides of the road spread out for a mile or two at least, maybe even more. It's just an enormous herd, combined herd, aggregation you would say, of zebra and wildebeest. And it just goes on and on and on. And there's still plenty of grass. So discussing it with Manu now, just the way that they're moving. They're kind of slowly edging towards the river, but there's no need for them to go and cross because there's still so much grass there. I mean, look at that. It's up to the bellies of the zebra. There's still so much to feed on. And I spent a few moments just off the vehicle having a look yesterday, and it's just so thick. And the grass is everywhere. When you go down to Djuma, you see from a distance it looks like there's grass, but when you actually stand above it, there's so many gaps and spaces. Whereas here, all of that you see encompassed, completely covering the soil surface with an enormous amount of biomass in the form of the red-oat grass, which is highly nutritious, and as we all know, a very, very favored fire climax grass. If you don't know what that means, it means that they actually favor fire. Fire stimulates them, keeps it going. And there's some really big areas in the Mara that were burnt just before the last TV series, and we'll head there probably a little bit, maybe today or this afternoon for sure. There's an area where we're finding most of the cheetah, because the short grass that comes through after this grass is burnt is even more nutritious than the taller grass, because they're looking for the green in the grass that is still coming through from the light rains. But after fire, this grass sprouts anew, very fresh green. And it just boggles the mind. If you've never been in this amount of, and this many animals in your life, it is really hard to put into perspective. Just as far as the eye can see, that line spreads. I couldn't believe it last night out with James. He pointed to the horizon and said, have a look with your binoculars, and just absolutely everywhere were spots of black wildebeest everywhere. Numbering, they reckon, 1.3 or 1.2 million individuals, about 600,000 zebra making the migration annually. It's been happening for 3 decades now. Historically, cattle grazing and human interference down here and disease from cattle brought in from Italy caused the rinderpest back in the late 1800s, and that decimated 90% of the cattle and grazing mammals on the continent. But they have slowly made their way back since the 60s, 70s, 80s, and this is a spectacle. Pig rider, you want to know why they herd together? Well, first of all, there's an abundance of food, so they can afford to stay in very large groups. And second of all, safety in numbers. I think I was discussing it in the last segment, that if you stay in this enormous number, say there's 10,000 of you, well, there's 1 in 10,000 chance that a lion is going to eat you. But if you're on your own, there's a 100% chance the lion's going to eat you. So being in these big numbers enables the babies to survive, because although a lot of the youngsters and a lot of the adults will get killed during the season, it does not compare to the numbers you see before you here. And so success lies in the fact that they herd together. So the genetic traits of hanging together benefits the species. Not just the zebra or the wildebeest, but together, because they do actually facilitate each other's feeding. The zebra are able to crop the grass nice and short, and then the wildebeest feed on it a little bit lower down. So the zebra actually sort of mimic a lawnmower, so to speak. Very similar to what the fire will do. It'll crop the grass quite low down, and this grass not only is a fire climax, it actually enjoys being moderately grazed, and so it causes it to sprout, and that is what the wildebeest look for, that really nice new green shoots that come from the vegetation. And we can just listen to them making their very characteristic noises. Spectacular. Well, this was always on my bucket list to do. I haven't experienced the millions of wildebeest, but yesterday I will take it, and today I will take this. This is exactly what I thought it would be. Now we just need to find the marauding lions, followed by their hyena counterparts, chasing these animals all over the place. Well, while we search for our marauding lions and head on over to the den site, let's go over to the marauding Makodi, who is still looking for her lions.
I am indeed searching for them, but I don't know where they are. So what we probably will do is... I've got hiccups now, please excuse me. That's wonderful. We're going to basically jump off on foot, and I'm going to check from here to the drainage line, and from here to that drainage line. This one is a big block, this side not so much, because this is where we had the lion and buffalo tracks all crossing over one another. We honestly could potentially see anything today. We could see from wild dogs, we could see hyena, we could see lions and another leopard. So I think this is a good area to work. There was a whole lot of commotion here last night, which is awesome. Now we just need to start finding the animals. So I thought that there's alarm calls here, yeah. I thought that we would probably just let whatever leopard is in the area, maybe they saw us on foot and ran, settle down, and we'll go back a bit later towards the end of drive. That squirrel was shouting and that's gone so quiet. There was also an African hawk eagle flying around here, so they may have been alarming for that. So we're just gonna, yeah, basically jump out of the car and then go into the bushes. Right, I'm gonna send you away now so I can go for a walk. Off you go back to Tristan.
Well, good luck, Taylor. Hopefully you will find the lions somewhere there, and hopefully they are on a kill. I know there was some people that heard some distress calls from the dam cam, so I'm hoping that you get lucky there, Taylor. Now, basically what's happened with Tanya and Kalamba is they moved off, and they moved off quite quickly, and they're walking slowly now east, where the tracks have changed. First they were moving quite fast, now they've kind of relaxed right down on a moving normal pace now. And the thing is that we don't really want to be pushing her or being too aggressive in our approach. So what happened was she was kind of behind that mound, and then she just kind of moved off not ideal, and now I don't really want to push her, so we're just going to slowly walk along her drainage. I think she's down in the drainage itself, and we're going to eventually kind of break off her trail and leave her here. I don't want to scare her much more, so Herbie says he's seen her, so come here, let's go. So she's here, she's not too far away. Let's have a little look now. So there she goes, the hyena that's running off. Hyenas have run off. It's unfortunately, this is how things are on foot, is that generally the person right in the front will see things and then they move off, but a hyena ran away, so it's not her. But like I said, I don't want to really continue on her trail too much more. I think I want to rather try and kind of cut off it a little bit now and leave her to herself for the morning. She's obviously doesn't really want to be seen this morning because she was giving the vehicles a really tough time, and now she's doing the same with us, and so it's almost like she just wants to be on her own this morning, and well, we need to respect that and let her go. But it's still, you know, I know you guys didn't get a group view of her, but at least there was a brief glimpse and got to see Thandi. I didn't see Klalamba at all while we were going. And so the best type of prey for young leopards to hunt, probably lizards and birds. For small leopards, as they get a little bit older, I would imagine that we'll probably end up them going for things like duiker and steenbok when they're like Hosanna size, if they're young females. Otherwise impalas, obviously, but you can see where they've walked. They've come straight through here. So this is their tracks coming down on the right-hand side, and they've crossed into this drainage and gone over the cross side. So we're kind of been just on their trail the whole time, and I don't really want to kind of spook them again. They're obviously moving. There's hyenas around. It's always better for us just to kind of break off the trail fairly shortly and try and head back. The problem is that this is kind of roughly the way we need to head to get onto the pathway that takes us out of here, without kind of bumping into potentially where she could be in this drainage line. So this crosses over the drainage line. We don't want to walk in the drainage line. Whenever you're tracking any dangerous game, so things like elephant, buffalo, lion, leopard, this is where you don't want to be, is inside, because what happens here is you come around a bend and that cat's got nowhere to go, or that animal's got nowhere to go, and so then it's aggressive towards you. So what you want to try to do is always go over and on top and then walk along the edges, and then you can look down, and if you see them, they then can run north, south, or whatever the length and breadth of the drainage section, and then out on the other side. They don't actually have to come towards you, and they feel like they've got an escape route. Right, now we're going to try and just kind of get out of here. Like I say, unfortunately I don't want to push her anymore, so while we do that, let's send you back across to Steve, who is surrounded not by leopard but by wildebeest.
Well, thank you, Tristan. Good luck there finding Thandi. We have got the head honcho amongst the wildebeest herd. He's standing atop a termite mound, or a mound. He's thinking he is a topee today. Almost like the general standing on top of his horse, pushing his warriors forward. Forward! And on they go. You there, forward! You can imagine the old armies, the armies of old. One individual standing there, high up, perched, sending his troops into battle. Now, maybe keeping his close eye on his harem, Louise says. Indeed, how you would be able to tell who your harem is amongst this rabble, I would not know. They just keep coming, and then 50 will cross the road, and then 25 will cross back again. Just grass is always green on the other side, says the wildebeest. So we talk about visual communication in wildebeest, and him standing on top of the termite mound showing how big he is, but the primary sense of communication of wildebeest is smell. So I spent some time with a couple yesterday, and they were clearly rubbing the preorbital gland in the body with, well, the face onto the body of an individual, and that's what wildebeest will do with their ladies. They will rub themselves after, obviously, very similar behavior to the brundled gnu we find down in South Africa, where they defecate in middens, roll in them, in their urine and their dung, and then rub themselves all over whoever it is that they claim to be theirs. Very similar situation up here. Only difference is that those middens have to keep moving, because the territorial males, well, the herd just keeps moving on. For example, that guy standing on his termite mound, he's probably figured he's got a really nice spot here, and the herd is with him for a few days, and then they disappear. And then he stands there for 2 weeks trying to figure out where did everybody go. And then he drops his territorial behavior, follows the herd, and then once with the herd again will re-establish pretty much the same story again within the confines of where the herd is. And then once again, within a few days, the herd moves on, leaving him looking very confused and bewildered with a very long face. So I was talking very briefly about the decimation of the buffalo and wildebeest due to rinderpest, and that really changed the dynamics within the area. Yes, wisteria, the horns do look very strange. I mean, it's so different from the gnu's down in South Africa, but they do look like they've been freshly spray painted and polished. So with the rinderpest and cattle grazing within the areas, due to the lack of herbivores and the lack of obviously cattle because of the rinderpest, in the 1960s they declared these areas, 1961 I think it was, they declared wildlife reserves in Ngorongoro, Masai Mara and Serengeti, where they wanted the wildlife to sort of re-establish themselves. And elephants moved into these areas in the 60s, and that with the huge amounts of fires led to the demise of whatever trees would have come through. So fire obviously will burn the trees and elephants will eat them, and whatever browsing sort of mixed feeders, impala and eland and the like, would feed on them as well. So due to a disease that was brought by an Italian cattle to South Africa, or to Africa, we now have these enormous herds free from the domesticated agricultural sort of setup that we find down in South Africa. And it's the same as what happened in South Africa. It happened to be the tsetse fly and also Zimbabwe that eliminated enormous areas of conservation area that we have today from falling under agriculture. And the same happened up in here in the Mara and Serengeti due to a disease. We have conservation areas thanks to some very clever thinking back in the day. So thank you, rinderpest and tsetse fly, for bringing us these wonderful areas. But between 61 and 1977, the wildebeest increased about sixfold from what they were, from about 250,000 to 1.5 million plus minus, leveling off at what they reckon the 1.3 million margin. And so for the last 3 decades, we've been witnessing this migration between the plains of the Serengeti and here in the Masai Mara. Very, very interesting, I find. Very interesting. Jess, I didn't actually notice. Manu, did you see the bird? Was it the roller? Yeah, Jess, it was a lilac-breasted roller. I saw it out the corner of my eye, but I was so engrossed in my storytelling that I didn't mention it. But lilac-breasted roller, we find the same down in South Africa. The only difference up here is that they're a little bit bigger. And my assumptions with the fact that the rollers are bigger up here is to do with the fact that there's insects all the time. They don't have sort of down seasons, so they're able to sort of engorge themselves with insects all year round. You can imagine the rainy season brings the insects, and all the dung that's created by all of these animals creates enormous amounts of insects as well. And the Mara being quite tropical, we get lots of rainfall, so it's quite moist and quite sort of insect prolific. There's proliferations of insects throughout the year, so the Mara has got nice diets for the animals, so there's no need for many of the birds to leave or to migrate. Why leave if there is food available? And the only reason the wildebeest leave is once they eat all of this grass down flat, and the rains that then fall down in the Serengeti cause them to then move back down south again. But I have no doubt we're going to be seeing changes in these cycles. I believe this year already the migration was late. Am I right, Manu? That was late. People talk about global warming not existing. Well, there's definitely changes in seasonal rainfall patterns, and birds as an indication of migration, and when they leave, a good indication of global warming. And migration species such as the wildebeest will either breed earlier or later, depending on when they mate and when the rains fall. So there's definitely going to see these changes happening. We're going to be going through wetter and drier years as we see it. I'd have to ask Manu. Can you tell me the name again there, please, Lou? A noticeable difference between this year's migration and last year's, Manu. Can you tell?
Last year they got to the crossroads. This year not.
Ilmu, you want to know about the migration, whether last year it was better than this year. And Manu, what are you saying?
So there are more numbers this year.
Manu reckons there's more numbers this year,
They didn't push that far north.
but they didn't push as far north as they did last year. So I don't know how anybody knows that. Who spends time counting? I lost count already, but they just keep coming and coming. They are everywhere. But I'm sure they are still breeding with the same sort of numbers. But, you know, if the rainfall is different, you probably find a number of them not leaving, a number of them not migrating south. The only reason to migrate is because of lack of food. Same with birds. If you have a late rain, you'll have a late migration. If you have a late rain, you also get more food. And sometimes the migration period window might elapse, and then animals will end up staying. So I didn't see many animals when I was here in February. Such a contrast here, but also there was almost no grass when I was here in February, so hence the fact there were no animals. And they're well known to move for the rainfall, which they can probably smell in the distance. But this enormous herd of animals is slowly moving towards the Mara River. I'm sure they're still a few kilometers away from it, but maybe on our way back after the den site we'll go find a perfect spot for them. Okay, so as we watch the tail of the wildebeest moving off slowly through the savannah, let's go down to Tristan, who seems to have managed to get himself out of the thickets.
We have indeed. So we've left Tandy and Tlalamba to themselves. We could hear where they were moving with Franklin's alarm calling. They're kind of heading back into this area where we first picked up the tracks for Tlalamba. So leave them there, let them relax, let them chill. They obviously want their own time, and so we'll leave it at that. We're not going to pressurize them just to get a sighting out of it. But still nice to have at least got a glimpse of her. She's always a difficult cat at times, and so it's pretty good to have a glimpse. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to head straight east from here. So Taylor is still trying to find the lions at the moment, and she's struggling a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and help her. Obviously we can't cover ground as quickly as she can, and so the chances of us getting to exactly where those tracks are pretty slim. But what we can do is we can head just to the east of where she has those tracks, and we can try and figure out maybe if we can find something coming further east that maybe she hasn't seen inside the block. So we're going to try and do a proper march to get there at the moment. It's going to be, I suppose, not too bad actually. We just cut straight through past the dam, and then we should be there fairly shortly. But it's going to take a little bit of time to get into that area, unfortunately. We kind of spend most of our morning around Tandy and Tlalamba, and so, you know, you can see even the dust from us walking is ridiculous. It really is so dry at the moment, kind of like choking on my own dust. Yes, you know, she doesn't like the paparazzi at all. She's being shy. She's being a pain, is what she's being at the moment. No, she's just being Tandy, and she's being a good mom, that's all. So evidently there's something that spooked her at some point, and she's just kind of keeping it on the low profile. Like I say, she doesn't really want anything to do with cars even today, and so rather leave her and let her carry on with her day and get it out of her system, and then hopefully she'll find something to eat and then settle down, and we'll be able to find her there. But at least we kind of roughly know where she is. At least we know Tlalamba is fine, and with her everybody's healthy and happy, and so that's all good. That's the good news. And you know, like I say, sometimes not seeing her is okay, as long as we just know where she is and that everything is okay. That's always good. But she can be a bit of a diva, can't she? So, shadowy pancakes. What is a shadowy pancake? Sounds like an interesting thing, but anyway, shadowy pancakes. Pancakes actually, should we have pancakes for breakfast today? Are we going to have pancakes for breakfast? What do you think? I'm not sure. We had pancakes yesterday. We did have pancakes yesterday, so no pancakes for breakfast for us. But I divulged. Not divulged, whatever. I can't even speak this morning at this stage. But Tlalamba is, at the moment, she is now approaching, she's about 11 months old now, as we get into October. So James found her den site the first den that we know of, on the 10th of November, I think, 10th or 11th. And how long she had been denning for, debatable. I mean, we don't really know, but it wasn't too long. It was maybe 3 weeks max, 2 weeks, I think, somewhere there. So she, theoretically, end of October, beginning of November, will be a year old. And so she's getting there. I mean, she's much older than we think. We always kind of think of her as this little cub, but she's getting to be a fair age now. And when she'll leave Thandi, no one knows. Thandi typically has been quite variable in her leaving of cubs. She's not consistent in any way whatsoever. So some days she leaves her cubs, or some years she leaves her cubs as early as Tambo, which was just over a year old. Other times she's kept her cubs for slightly longer, towards sort of 16, 17 months. So it just depends on the individual and what's going on. But I don't know. I suppose we'll have an answer soon, won't we? I reckon I'm going to say February, March is when she's going to leave Tlalamba. That's going to be my guess, but we don't know, to be honest. Right, onward we march, trying to get closer towards where Taylor is. And talking about Taylor, let's send you back across to her.
Well, we're still tracking lions, and I'm really excited for you and Herbie to move into the area, because we do need help. We really do, because these animals are not on any of the roads. So Seb and I have driven every road we possibly could have. I'm just literally checking Giraffe Dip, and there's no lion tracks coming this way, just a couple of hyena tracks. So I'm fairly certain that they are that side, and still on the property too. So hopefully when Herbie and them come in and they get to Hyena Road, they'll be able to see all the commotion. Okay, nothing here. So I think what we... Oh, hang on. Sorry, Seb. Forgot that there's maybe a hole on that side of the road. I think what we will do is... I think we're going to go back towards where Hosana was. See what he's up to. And let the bushwalk team come through here. Because there's not much that we can do anymore. We kind of are stuck. Just because it would require me to be out of the car also walking. So... we'll let the guys come through. We know that they're somewhere around here. And the other thing is that they could have eaten something already and moved off. It could have very easily happened. But I didn't see any tracks. I didn't, though, check all the way to Gari Cut Line. So if they crossed out, they would have crossed out sort of north from where Buffelshoek Dam is. But I don't think so. I feel like they would have had to have caught a buffalo. There's so many just lion tracks everywhere. So... and wild dog tracks and hyena tracks and all the animal tracks. I think last night would have been a great night to be out in the field the whole night. Hey Seb, can you imagine the commotion that would have happened? Yeah, we would have seen some incredible things. So that's the plan. Hey? Ah, well, let me stop and have a look at them. That's a good sign for us. These vultures might lead us straight towards where we need to go. There we go. So there's the vultures. Maybe they are between Buffelshoek Dam and Hyena Road in that drainage line, which is a particularly thick one. I didn't get to go in there. Right, so Jacqueline, some of the animals still roam around the whole of Africa. Let's not talk about the whole of Africa, because I've never traveled the whole of Africa. Let's talk about South Africa. Unfortunately, in South Africa, most of the wildlife population, so the wild animals, are limited to protected areas, so from nature reserves to game reserves, onto people's private land. There's a lot of like farms and things like that in South Africa. However, you obviously do still see the odd antelope here and there. Caracal are often spotted in the farming communities. They are seen as a big pest. Jackals, the same thing. You can see them kind of like running around. But the rest of the wildlife, if you go to the west coast of South Africa, you might even see the odd leopard here and there. So they are around, and just like in the rest of the world, some animals have learned to live alongside humans, and you know, just sort of get by. But I always feel sorry for any animal that tries to compete with humans, because we just eradicate everything. We always find a problem with it, and then we must get rid of it, which always makes me so sad. But of course, if we are living in areas and there's a leopard roaming around, you would be nervous. Your pets would probably start to go missing, and if you've got young children, you definitely have to be very, very careful. So I could imagine that they'd need to be relocated. But anyways, that doesn't happen too often. Right, vultures circling up ahead. I think they're just trying to catch a thermal at the moment. They're not diving down. So I'm hoping that as they're circling, they're going to spot lions for us. And then it's going to dive down and go into a tree. No. Okay. Awesome. Right, well, we'll just have a quick look around. I think we might mosey on down, or maybe we'll go one last time around Bevulsik Dam. Steve is on his way to the North Clan Den, and I think you'll be very excited to see those little cubs.
Thanks, Taylor. We are imminently about to arrive on the hyena den scene. That's my first time here. So hopefully we'll find someone in attendance of the North Clan. And just to put some concerns to rest about the hyena we saw earlier, we did alert the warden about that individual, but I'm not sure what they will do about it. Essentially, out in these African wildernesses, if an animal gets injured, unless it's by human force, they generally leave them be. It's part of nature. It's part and parcel of African wilderness. Nature out here is a cruel beast, I'm afraid, and individuals that fall victim to injury, albeit, I mean, we saw that scene with the zebra on the TV show that had been probably disemboweled by a crocodile, and then the hyena slowly ripped it apart. I mean, that is as cruel as it gets. But by no means should you interfere at any stage, because that is all being played out in this natural system. So I know it does touch a lot of hearts to see those sort of things, but nature plays its role and it does what it needs to do, and that individual hyena, whatever role it played last night and whatever battle it was in, well, it lost. And the victors will carry on, and the loser, well, unfortunately, will not. I don't think that individual will survive, as sad as it sounds. We did inform the warden, gave him the area, but it is a very sad scene, I must admit. But we are here to observe and to play witness. We're not here to get involved. Policies in the Kruger Park, which I know very, very well, is if it's a rare and endangered animal that's injured in any way, they might intervene. Rare and endangered, but if it's any common animal that you find lots of, well, they will just shoot it. They won't call a vet. It's cheaper to use a bullet, as sad as that might sound. Vets and, you know, to look after an animal that's got injury, you first got to get the vet and you've got to drug it, then you've got to rehabilitate it, and unfortunately there's no real rehabilitation for animals out here. You put them into a rehab center, and how do they really get dispatched back out into this wilderness? It's very hard. It's very hard. You've got to feed them by hand, you've got to look after them. Yeah, it's a very difficult thing. So essentially a vet coming onto a scene like that would just euthanize the individual with a drug, or a ranger would just shoot it. That would essentially, I think, what would happen. It's very sad. I know a lot of you out there might disagree. It's not my policies. But important to understand that this is all happening out here all the time. And if we never saw that hyena there on the road, we would never thought two things about it. But these things are happening all the time. Lion cubs, leopard cubs. What happened to them? We weren't there to witness. Get the feeling we're almost here, Manu, are we? Further on. Okay, so much further in than I thought it would be. So we're just here to witness, and the thing about our shows, we're able to show this to you all across the world. Sam, well, the wardens, essentially, I think ours is the assistant warden, is that right? The wardens, they're in charge. Essentially, they are the guardians of this environment, so they look after the conservation side of things, the rangers, the field rangers. I'll talk more about what I know about wardens in South Africa, because I think they fit a very similar sort of role. And essentially, they're in charge of the conservation. They're in charge of the gates, they're in charge of the fences, they're in charge of the fire, in charge of the animals, any emergencies that might happen, any dangerous situations. There's scaries that we have, the field rangers. Down in South Africa, the warden is in charge of overall encompassing the entire area. So that's the decision maker, essentially a conservationally trained person who looks after everything conservation. They're not an ecotourism person, they're a conservationist, and then they employ all of the people underneath them who are involved with the road maintenance, any building infrastructure, piping, fences, whatever that might be. If there are camps and lodges that rent land within the property, they're also subject to his rules and his sort of law, or her law. There are female wardens in the world, ladies. There are indeed. I have met a couple of them. Very, very strong ladies. Conservation invariably in South Africa for a long time was a very male-dominated society. So you need the ladies I've met that are wardens are very, 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 very strong, and they've done very, very well for themselves. So that is pretty much it. So also the whole of the anti-poaching sort of side falls under them as well. So wardens are in charge of the entire thing. And the beautiful thing about it is the larger the area, the less real maintenance or management there is required. The smaller the area, the more intensively it is managed with regards to the resources. Okay, so Manu has just given me the click, which means we are nearly there. He's pointing it out. All I see is grass, but we've got to go around. Okay, Manu, a little bit around the corner. Are we ready to see the North Clan, ladies and gentlemen? I'm very ready to see the North Clan. I don't see a single individual so far. There are some holes. There's one. Oh, hello. That's not Waffles. Do not ask me today, folks, to identify any of these hyena for you. Well, we have found them. And the den site is active, Lou. Sorry, give us another moment. I know Waffles has got a necklace, a beautiful necklace for a queen. But where she is at the moment, I don't know. But the very nice holes in the ground. Here is another hyena with its bottom up in the air, the tail in the air. Looked like it was being... Okay, so Waffles is below. We'll move up there. Let's go have a little look-see, shall we? Good morning, North Clan. Have you had a wonderful evening? Such a nice area you're in here. They've got some really good real estate. It's all about real estate. Okay, so here are three more. There she is. There is Waffles. Good morning, Queen. And a beautiful morning it is out here. Seem to be sharing a hole in the ground there. So, Manu, there's some new pups around, I believe, eh? Waffles has got a new one, and Elsie has got some as well. Is that Elsie? LCS. She's got something in there. We wonder if anything will pop. Is that an ear? That is a hyena puppy's ear. Hello. It's a little bit too windy outside for the puppies. Even the adults are... Well, let's quickly go over to Taylor with some interesting bird activity.
Look how epic this is. Now, we all saw a little bit earlier when Seb and I jumped out of the car to go and do a bit of investigating. We obviously told you about the lungs and the stomach content that's now being devoured by the vultures. There's a combination of whiteback vultures, and I think I did see one hooded vulture too. But it doesn't stand a chance against the big whiteback vultures. Look at them, they're fighting over the stomach now. Now, they're not going to be eating the dung that's still inside there. They're going to be just feasting on that outer layer. Look at them all fighting. I'm sure they're going to end up eating some feces or some partially digested grass or whatever it may have been eating too, but there's not much there. And you'll see leopards and lions also eating that outer casing, and it must have some sort of nutritional value, because they, I mean, the fact that they go after such a small piece of membrane. Look at that, there's a perfect bowl. Now they're all scavenging over it. It's pity there's no sounds. Yeah, the fact that they all go after it must mean that there's something in there that they crave. Look at them go. Go, go, go. Because they weren't jumping, trying every tactic. There's the hooded vulture I was telling you about, the small one. They're tiny. Look at them, tug of war. Who will win the battle? Gone. Don't bully it, that's mean. They literally don't care. Look how small that vulture is in comparison to the whitebacks, hey? It is crazy to see how small they are. Now there's a few more landing.
There's more food there.
Oh yes, that's where they dragged it into the water, the few little bits. They're finding everything. Not much ready to fill the vultures, but there are vultures coming in from all corners of the world at the moment. Perhaps if you see any vultures taking off in the Mara, they're on their way here too. No, I'm only teasing. But I don't know where the lions and things are. Although those vultures are all coming from this block. You know that, Seb. All those vultures have flown out
From the left, yeah.
from the south of us. I mean, from the west of us. I'm pretty sure the lions are in there somewhere. So that'll be exciting stuff. It was nice to watch the vultures all squabble over remains. Now they, of course, are going to fight with one another. Will this be the day that I get to watch vultures bathe? Remember, I said I have never seen vultures having a bath before. And even though they typically feed on rotten carcasses, they are quite clean.
Walking around, so
I know, they are funny the way that they walk. We call them tsotsis. We say in South Africa, vultures, the way they behave, they look like tsotsis. So like an unsavory kind of person that probably wouldn't want to do nice things to you in a dark alley, the way that they walk. That is so great. There's really nothing left for them to eat now. Just a few more scraps that they've managed to find, which is awesome. They'll decimate carcasses. Goodness. Snazzy, I don't know what a vulture would taste like. I don't think I would choose a vulture to eat. I also don't know if there are any cultures in Africa that eat them. I don't know, I can't remember what they actually do with a vulture's head, because they say that the sangomas, the witch doctors, say that that can help you see into the future. We know that these vultures have got exceptional eyesight. I don't think they eat vultures. They'll use, different body parts for different things. They might eat, say, I don't think they'd eat the whole bird. To put it like this, I don't think anyone's going to go, right, we're going to have roast vulture for dinner tonight. I don't think anyone says that, but they might go, I'll eat the heart of a vulture because it'll give me some form of superpower, which of course is not true. Shame, leave that one alone. The two hooded vultures picking on one another and pulling each other's feathers out. That's not very nice. So I don't think vultures are typically... maybe their eyes, yeah, but I don't think they're eaten as a whole. I don't think. I also don't think they taste very nice. Anyways, it's a nice scene because you don't often get to see vultures down on the ground. It's obviously quite thick out here, whereas in the Mara it's fairly open, so the vultures feel very confident and resting upright on the ground. Even they don't even necessarily roost in trees. They just, sit on the grass and enjoy the sun that way. Here it's a bit more scary for them because anything could just pop around the bush and grab them. Off they go though. Now they're finished. The sound of them flapping their wings is pretty spectacular. Very cool. Right, now we saw the big herd of buffalo that the lions were chasing after. It seems as though Tristan has got an encounter on foot.
Well, we did have a view of the buffalo, but they ran away because we've been sitting here for too long and the wind blew the wrong way, and it's now scared them, and now it's not safe for us to be here at all. So we're going to try and get out of here rather quickly, because stampeding buffalo are never a good idea to be hanging around with. And so we're going to try and move. The wind is swirling quite a bit and kind of shifting quite quickly in their direction, and so we're going to have to get out of here now. It was quite pleasant because we had them all kind of just across the dam and they were filing down for water, and now they all can see are starting to run. It's all the big bulls that I worry about because they're all the ones that are across from us at the moment that are watching us as we move away. So they're not the animals that you really want to spend much time with at all. So unfortunately it was
going to be very nice until the wind ruined our entire thing and has set these buffalo off a little bit. So I'm just going to try and get out of here and back away from them. They seem to be okay for now. None of them are actually actively kind of chasing us at the moment. They're all just standing and watching us as we walk away, and I think as long as we keep moving away, we should be okay. You can see them all heads up sniffing, so this is not an approach that you would really want at all. Normally you try and get in and try and view them without being detected, which was fine. It was going all well until the wind swirled, which we knew was coming anyway, because they'd picked us up once before already, and we managed to kind of get into the drainage line before they could really figure out what was going on. And so they relaxed right down, and we went and sat under a tree in the shade and kind of watched them, and most of the herd had come out, and then that gust just kind of ruined the whole thing. So you want to be very careful with buffalo. They're not an animal that you mess around with. It's okay if you are not being sort of seen or smelt to be around big herds, but you can see immediately what's happened here. The whole herd stampeded away, and now the bulls have all come down and they present the sort of united front. What worried me with where we were is that the herd stampeded out of this bowl and could easily come back around behind us, and then we get trapped between those bulls and the herd, and that's not where you want to be. So that's why we've got up very quickly and kind of tried to exit out and head sort of northwards away into a thicket where we at least have termite mounds, trees that we can go and hide behind and at least use for a bit of shelter. From this distance now, it's okay. Now we've kind of increased the distance, it's okay. But, you know, it's obviously got to be very careful with things like buffalo. Right, well, we're going to carry on and get out of here now. I'm not going to upset these guys too much more. In the meantime, let's send you back across to Steve in the Mara.
You do have to be careful, Tristan. Herbie knows what he's doing, and so do you, so I'm sure you will be fine. We're here with the North Clan females, we can only assume, because they're with youngsters, we think, in the den. And there she is. They're sheltering from the wind. I don't know if you can pick it up on the ambient mic, but there's quite a gust of wind coming in from behind Waffles' head there, so she's picked a very nice hole, which probably nice prevailing wind. Makes a lot of sense because the balloon safaris go in exactly the same direction every single day. I believe every now and again they don't go anywhere, they go up and land, but they go from the opposite side, so from the east, sort of a little bit northeast, and they come all the way down to sort of this general area, and that is the same direction that this wind is blowing quite heavily in. And due to that fact, I have a very strong feeling that the puppies, or cubs as we were, will not come out. We'll just still basically make out, or we could anyway, a moment ago. There's a bottom, you can just see it, and in the air, a little youngster that's sheltering from the storm, sheltering from the wind. You can see the blades of grass there on the opposite side of the hole that are blowing, so that's a good indication of how gusty it is. The wind is coming from behind. Not pleasant being out in a gusty wind, especially if you're a little youngster with a thinnish coat of fur. You cool down very quickly, so like to be snuggled up nice and close with mum. It might possibly even be suckling, thinking of the distance it is. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, mum's been out for the night, and yeah, by the movement of the head, it could be suckling, getting in some important nutrients or nourishment for the morning to help them grow into new leaders of the clan. Hopefully we'll be blessed with the emergence of one or two of them. We know how inquisitive they can be. Hello, Pig Rider. You want to know why this individual has got a collar? Well, in all wildlife areas in South Africa where conservation is quite active, researchers want to know movements and dynamics of animals. So the best way of doing that is by putting on a collar. Many years of research have shown that the collar doesn't influence the animal too negatively, and after a period of time they will replace it or remove it altogether. And what that collar does is it does all sorts of, either it's a telemetry tracker, which means you can find the animal, help you to find it, and then often they've got a GPS sort of download as well that's constantly pinging to satellite and is giving you indications of the movements of those animals. They've been doing it with elephants since the 90s. There was huge culling operations that happened in South Africa up until about 94, and then international pressures stopped that because there was no actual research to give any sort of real sort of evidence how and why the elephants were doing what they were doing or what they were doing. So huge amounts of research were underway by organizations, namely Save the Elephants, where they collared elephants down in the Kruger National Park and also up here in Kenya, I believe, and they watched how they moved. And the GPS collars gave you indications not only of the time of day they move, but also distances and speeds. And what's very interesting with the elephants that were done in those days is that they showed and they proved that elephants do perceive risk, and there are corridors between certain conservation areas throughout the continent, corridors that go past human sort of settlements, but from one conservation area to another. And some really interesting GPS footage shows you how these herds of elephants would move towards sort of the gap or sort of the entrance to that corridor, sort of towards the beginning or early evening. And then as soon as human sort of activity was at its lowest, like between 11 and 2 in the morning, the elephants would absolutely book it along that corridor and get to the other side. And as soon as they got to the other side of the corridor and into the next conservation area, they would immediately slow down and relax again. So through that sort of research, you're able to come up with all sorts of different management possibilities and ideas of how these animals move, where they move, why they move, what times of year they move. Similarly, elephants in the Kruger National Park, they see how the breeding herds move in response to rainfall. They see how the male elephants move now in response to breeding season, where they go, when they go, how quickly they can cover those distances when they are in must. And I'm sure similar things are done with these clans to show exactly the distances and ranges that they cover, and are able to get a good indication of territory size. Because I mean, if you come out here and you have a look around here, it is just a vast expanse of grassland with some trees every now and again. And how you would be able to monitor animals out here without being able to find them, it's impossible. It's impossible. So through these GPS collars and telemetry, researchers are able to spend time with animals, pick up data of movement, but also the more time you can spend with these animals, the more information you can gather with regards to their behavior, how they interact with each other. Many observational studies that are done by people finding these animals. And if you had to go by tracking alone, well, you would not find them out here. If you track them, impossible. But if you're able to find them, especially animals like wild dog, how they move, where they move, cheetah as well, very important to know where they're going, especially animals like that, cheetah and wild dog, that are reintroduced to an area. You want to know if they're going to escape the area, escape the boundaries, and how far they go. And if they do escape the boundaries, then you can relocate them again. Down in the Cape in South Africa, friends of mine from the Landmark Foundation have collared many Cape leopards, and there's a huge sort of influence down there of wildlife and human conflict, mainly to do with cattle or young or goats or sheep that are killed, and always the farmer blames the leopard. So they've now got GPS collars on these leopards, and they can track exactly where those leopards move and how they move, and if they can guarantee that that leopard was responsible for the death of that livestock, they will reimburse that individual. And so what that's led to is farmers, rather than killing these leopards now, are more willing to capture them, to put collars on them for research purposes, and then they know if the leopard does kill livestock, they'll be reimbursed. But at the same time, rather than putting down a gin trap, which is those things that do that and kill, well, might not kill the animal, but maim it, you're able to then capture it, give the researchers the opportunity to research them, and then see how they move within and around agricultural areas, human areas, because essentially Africa is a wilderness continent that is now being completely inundated by people. So if we're able to work out how the animals are moving and in response to humans, well, we can at least start working on conservation policies and wilderness areas and corridors between areas. So if you know that animals through GPS collars are moving along certain areas to get past human settlements, then you can start allocating those areas to conservation corridors. You buy the land off the people, whatever it might be. At least you know then the animals are moving freely within or through human settlements, and they avoid humans. They do invariably avoid humans, and unfortunately every now and again a goat or a sheep is taken, but we are on a wilderness continent where the carnivore is top of the pecking order. So I hope that has given you some insight into the use of collars. Anna Marie, there are certain collars these days that have got sort of a release mechanism after a certain amount of time, and they just drop off into the bush. I don't know how many of those are available at the moment, but many of them, most of them, especially on animals like elephant and hyena that are quite vigorous animals that move around a lot, they are actually bolted on there. So to be able to remove them, they're going to actually have to dart the animal to remove it. I'm trying to think of the cases of where they do drop off. I do know of them, but off the top of my head I have forgotten. Rhinos, they put them on their foot because they cannot get them around the neck, and rhinos are very rubby and scratchy, so they would probably try to break it off eventually. But it doesn't seem to cause any trouble. I mean, if you look at Waffles, she is the matriarch of this clan, and she has still got a collar on, so it hasn't influenced her social standing at all. And what does happen, something for research purposes, if there is a lion that escapes a conservation area and they're relocated back into the conservation area from wherever it got to, they will always put a collar on, because a lion that escapes once might escape again, and then in so being can become a problem animal. So with the collar they'll be able to find it again, at least if it does escape again, or at least track its movements and eliminate potentially its risk to society. Oh, I just got a wind whiffed of what is clearly a hyena toilet somewhere nearby, and I think Waffles might have smelt it too. she's decided to come out of her hole. I suppose that is a lesson learned for me today. Don't park your car downwind of a hyena den. Hey Manu? We are learning lessons all the time, folks. Normally I would have smelt it about 20 minutes ago. We haven't smelt anything until now. Maybe she just farted, I don't know. But there was suddenly a whiff that headed in our direction. There's a little bit of social bonding going on there between the two. With hyenas, anything is indeed possible, Louise. Okay, well, hopefully they're going to get up and get a little bit active. And there's a nice little frame for you of the two individuals. No, too much effort. They're both going to sit down in the hole, are they? Well, I can safely say, or happily say, that Manu and I have shared a coffee here at the hyena den site of the North Clan. It was on my bucket list. It has now been ticked off. Very good. Very, very good. I just always wonder what's going on in those mines there. Their noses are picking up on so many individual smells out there. It must be an absolute mind-boggling experience for them with the migration arrives. All of these animals pulling in. A hyena and a lion stay put, they don't leave. They pick off the individuals that stay behind. Leaving the migrating herds to feed the hyena and lion down in the Serengeti. Well, talking about predators, Taylor is with the little chief.
Sorry everybody, I'm just listening to the Game Drive radio. Oh no, okay, Herbie's got it under control. Sorry, Kirby's on the radio. We're back with Hosanna now, and he hasn't really moved much. He's just trying to find a bit of shade, and he's watching all the animals that come down. Now, I think his plan is to hide behind those logs to fool the impala herds that are moving in, but I think that they've seen him already, because they're very, very, very suspicious. Just lingering up on that damn wall. Now, this is very typical behavior of leopards and lions, any predators really, to hang around watering holes like this And we know that they normally do it at this time of the year when it's super dry and there are only a couple of places left where they can go and drink. So these impala will have to risk it eventually, or they'll have to move on and go and try and find water elsewhere. So so it kind of just, it sort of just depends as to what's going to happen. But there he is, just sitting there, just relaxing. He's also been watching all the birds. He's very much enjoying watching the birds this morning. And he's been lucky because none of them have actually alarmed at him, which would of course give his presence away to everything around here. So maybe they also want him to find a tasty snack. But I doubt he'll get up and do much, unless something comes really close and he's got a good opportunity. But where he is now, I don't know how successful he would be in catching anything. I think it is very, very tricky around Twin Dams to try and catch anything because it is so open. There's really nothing you can do to conceal yourself. Big yawn. Doesn't really matter how low he gets to the ground. He still won't be able to stalk them efficiently. You kind of have to just wait for them to come to him. 100% Mrs. Zero, and please don't ever take any offense in us calling Hosana a goofball. We by no means are implying that he is less intelligent than any other leopards. It's just his character. He's done exceptionally well, considering the circumstances, being, you know, left on his own really fairly young. He's ventured out of his homeland into, you know, uncharted territories, and he's made it back. You know, he's been chased by Hukumori a few times. Who knows what other leopards have had a go at him. So 100%, he is very, very clever. He's still very young and inexperienced though, and that of course brings out his character. I've never seen a leopard with so much personality, and anytime we do say anything, we are certainly not disrespecting this cat. That is something that you all need to understand. So when we call him a goofball or Dorcas Maximus or, you know, whatever, it's all just because he is so sweet. And he's like I said, he's my favorite male leopard in the Sabi Sands. He's an incredible cat. He's so entertaining. Doesn't matter what he does. He always finds a way to put a smile on your face. And I mean, obviously doesn't realize that he's doing that. But you can see that I think the sun is getting him to him now. There we go. Tina, you said perhaps he's doing a bit of birding here at the dam. Maybe. You know, that could definitely be the case. Sorry, you can't. It's another vehicle driving around us at the moment. It's not a photographer's dream right now, as you can see. But also look how he blends in that dappled light. He becomes far more camouflaged when he lays flat, and with all that lighting and all those sticks and things like that, that's really concealing him. I don't think he'll lie here forever. I think he's going to have to go somewhere else to find a nice place to sort of cool off. Right, off you go back across to the Mara, to the wonderful East Africa. And Steve is still hanging around the hyena den, and I think he's got some cubs.
Yes, well, 2 of them have come out, folks. Here we go. Charging. Those waffles went over, nudged the other female out the way, and then Manu assures me that these are her 2 youngsters. He only got 1 out at the moment. They came out. Ooh, some hippos shouting. I think that was a hippo. It might have been an elephant. It was quite a mixed sort of bag of sounds there. But this little youngster has come out very, very inquisitive. Has already done a couple of fake pastings. If you don't know what a pasting is, folks, it's when these animals go and they basically rub their bottom or their pasting anal gland over a small stick or shrub nearby the den. It's something, there we go, see it's doing it again. There's a pasting. basically rubs its bottom against and leaves a little secretion. I don't know when the youngsters are this small if there is a secretion, but it's in their instinct to do so. When they demarcate their territorial boundaries all over the place, they will leave these pasting marks on little grass stalks on that boundary, and that smell that's left there, the communication that it's given, people believe give off all sorts of information to other clans with regards to breeding success, all sorts of things. There, he's doing it again. So the youngsters practice their pasting around their little den site, and they'll do so for the first year, until eventually going out and pasting on their own somewhere out there on a territorial boundary which they will be able to smell. And there's a little bit of love. Hello, Mum. A little bit boisterous. We still find it so strange. We're trying to work it out, because Waffles got up and moved the other hyena out of the way, and then these two youngsters came out of the hole. So we're thinking maybe Waffles was out moving around while the other adult was looking after her puppies as well as, or cubs, as well as Waffles. Hayley, you want to know how the hyena are different? Well, they've got much more fur up here. Other than that, I think they're very, very similar. These individuals do look a little bit bigger. They might be a little bit bigger because they might have a little bit more prey throughout the year. But other than that, they're very, very similar. A little bit more fur due to the fact that the temperature is pretty consistent here, whereas down in South Africa we get the summer and the winter. So when it gets cold down in South Africa, they're just more active, and when it's hot, they're just less active. Where up here, it's pretty consistent, and just a little bit more fur on them. That's what I think, anyway. And they accumulate in much larger clans up here due to the fact that prey is much more abundant. They're also on almost a similar sort of standing point with the lions up here, whereas in Juma, well, as we all know, the hyena are on the lowest rung, well, below the lions anyway. They try and compete with the leopard, but the leopard are just, they look down on them in the tree. I've seen Tingana defecating and urinating right on the face of a waiting hyena, and I think someone made the comment yesterday asking someone, why doesn't Hosana just chase the hyena away by urinating on them? Well, I've seen Tingana do it, and well, the hyena seemed to quite enjoy it actually. He just looked at it inquisitively as it urinated all over his face, or its face. I think Waffles has had a late night. She's not interested. Leave me alone, little boisterous one. When you just want to sleep and the youngsters just want to play. Indeed, Louise says that the Tingana urination is a little bit of a free cologne, a little bit of a popcorny smell. They probably quite enjoy it. Ooh, we're going to the movies, said the hyena that day. Kimberly's cabin in Iowa, they most certainly do. They are known as the spotted or the laughing hyena, and they do laugh. They make this high-pitched cackling sound when they get excited. I don't have any of that on my phone for you right now, but I would love to show it to you. They get very excited when they're competing against lion, or when they are all together feeding on a carcass, or when they are competing against a rival clan. This very high-pitched cackling sound, which is quite unnerving in the darkness, and it is definitely something that you need to experience firsthand. Watching it on video is one thing, but being out in the wilderness, having hyena doing that, that's something I'm desperately looking forward to seeing here. A group of 20, 30, 40 hyena coming in against another rival clan of a similar sort of size. That is something that is definitely is on my bucket list. One of the things I'm really looking forward to seeing up here. So the laughing hyena, spotted hyena, same thing really. Crocata, the scientific name. They are so unique that they are in their own order, or their own family, should I say. Hyenidae. They are in the Carnivora family, or order. Carnivora order, Hyenidae family. Carol, it's so completely instinctual, the pasting behavior. So they're not taught it. They might see the adults do it, but the youngsters just run around. They know they have to just have to do it. There's lots of instinctive things that most animals have from a young age, especially when you are born a little bit more developed than others. There's certain things that you just have to do, and pasting is one of those very important things, those important attributes. It's part of being a hyena, is being able to paste and demarcate your territory, because they are, end of the day, very territorial animals. And talking about turf warfares, they only happen every now and again because the pastings and the territorial behavior quite often eliminates the confrontation. But when it does happen, well, it is something to behold that I have yet to see in person, only on camera. Manu's seen it many times, haven't you? Manu says countless times. Well, I don't think it's going to be happening today. But what is happening today is Taylor is once again sitting with my favorite leopard.
We are indeed. We are indeed. Now, I am having a little bit of a silent chuckle because one of the beauties of course, having a camera that can zoom in really well means that we don't have to get that close to the animals, although they're very relaxed and they don't seem to mind it here all the time. But what this means for us is that we can take the sneaky gaps that no one really wants. Now, look at where Hosana is sitting. You can't actually see him face on because he's behind a broken leadwood tree and there's quite a few quarries and things growing. That's what he's facing at the moment. So everybody's having to sit basically to the right of screen, and he won't look at their cameras, so everyone's getting very upset that he won't pose for the camera. I'm having a little chuckle, and I'm just sitting here going, we haven't got it. It's not great for you, but at least he looks at us every now and then. But for the average camera, you wouldn't really get a very nice shot. He's quite a distance away from us. And look at him. I love the way he looks up and that light catches his golden eyes. He's tired now, though. It's been a long night of moving around, probably many unsuccessful hunts. Shame. Shame, young Hosana. But he's getting better with age, and every single day he's improving. And that's what's most important. We must also remember that they aren't particularly successful hunters anyways. Even the most experienced leopards will miss quite a few attempts. He's just looking, he's watching the car drive over the damn wall now. That's what he's staring at. Let's see if he'll be kinder to the next set of guests that drive in, or if he's still just going to look at the complete opposite direction. Tired. I think he's getting annoyed. He's not getting annoyed with us. He's getting annoyed with the fact that the sun is hot now. Obviously, he's opened his mouth. He's panting slightly. He's probably seen another bird or heard one, and that's what's caught his attention. Look. But again, everybody can just see the back of his head. Yeah, he is. He's so far on his bird list this morning. He's got some kind of a sandpiper. He's had a go-away bird, a hammerkop, Retz's helmet shrikes, a yellow-billed hornbill, a turtle dove, woolly neck stork. We briefly had a woolly neck stork. Yes, starlings, Cape Glassy starlings, as well as Birchall starlings. Oh, the odd bee-eater. I mean, he's doing very, very well this morning for himself. Perhaps all the time he spent with Brent has worn off on him now, and he's now a keen birder. Hosana, are you taking ornithology as a subject at Bush School? Maybe, maybe not. Yes, he is a twitcher. He does twitch quite a bit too. Oh, you've got red-breasted swallows. You've got all the animals. There you go. Very nice, Hosana. And then I can also hear squirrels and things going ballistic, but that's because there's also a juvenile battalier flying around. So they're unhappy about that. Right, well, I'm going to enjoy Hosana as he refuses to look at all the tourists. He's looking straight at us. Good boy, well-trained. If you go to Tristan, well, he's also quite well-trained, and he stares into camera too.
Well, Sometimes, Taylor. So Hosana is probably the best at it, though. We are right out on quarantine now. We've had enough danger for one morning in the form of buffalo and leopards, and so we're taking it very easy out on quarantine clearings. Not much going on otherwise. We've checked around, we've looked for tracks and things, and I've been looking really hard for any signs of insects anywhere, but it is so barren at the moment. There's no insects that I can find. We've checked trees, we've checked grass, we've looked under even some fallen over logs and things like that, and we just can't really find much. So it's at that period now where it's at its absolute driest, where it becomes very difficult for the insects and those kind of things to be out. Even though we've got warm temperatures, which would be fine for insects activity, the lack of rain means a lack of food, and therefore you find many of the insects haven't actually even hatched yet. So they're still dormant underground, some of them, particularly things like the dung beetles, which I'm looking forward to coming out. I always love watching the dung beetles go to work. They're such amazing creatures. So they'll be nice to see again, and all kinds of other things that are hopefully going to be arriving, as well as the migratory birds. It should be any day now that we start to hear the woodland kingfishers. I suppose actually maybe we're a little bit shy. We're still in October, end of October, beginning of November. That's normally when they arrive. So they should be around. Interestingly enough, the cuckoos are starting to come in. I was in Hoedspruit. When I was in Hoedspruit, over a week ago now. Anyway, when I was in Hoedspruit, there was a classes cuckoo calling. So I know some of you want to see the classes cuckoo because beautiful, beautiful bird. Haven't heard any cuckoos here in the sands yet, but I would imagine they're not far. If they're in Hoedspruit, which is an hour away, the cuckoos will be here shortly. So we should start to hear. Normally classes in Diedrich and red-chested are the first three that kind of arrive. And then from there, you start to get Levalence and Jacobin that start to come in, and it'll be really nice to have all of those back in this area again. I quite enjoy the summer period. It's such a busy time and lots of noise that you hear all around the park, and you kind of get so many more sounds coming out at the dawn chorus and those times. So thoroughly looking forward to all of those birds coming back. What I've been surprised about, to be honest, is that since I've been back, I haven't really noticed too many Wahlberg's eagles. I would have thought by now we should have a really serious, healthy amount of them. And it seems as though they are very quiet. I saw one, but other than that, it's not like normal where we have Wahlbergs constantly flying around. And I wonder if they've been waylaid a little bit by the dryness of this area and have stayed a little bit further north. You might find, given that Wahlbergs often will hunt things like red-billed quelea, you might find that they, I don't know, maybe have gotten stuck somewhere, northern Kruger, Zimbabwe area. Maybe that's where they are. I don't know. It'll be interesting to tell, but should have seen more than what we've been seeing. I don't know if the nest at Twin Dams is active. I know I saw one at the nest of Wahlberg's Nest Road, but that's it. I haven't seen too many others at all. So Hosana is going to have to increase his bird list quite a lot, although I'm supposed he's seen most of these things. It'd be interesting to know if Hosana's actually seen birds that we don't know, or eaten birds that we don't even know occur here. It's quite a sad thought. Something like Brent's corncrake that he saw on Cheetah Plains, or maybe, some of the other birds that are rare in these areas. I hope he hasn't eaten rare things. It would be quite sad, to be honest. It would be very bleak if I came around the corner and he had a corncrake in his mouth. I wouldn't know what to actually do. I've been looking for corncrakes for quite some time. Very tricky bird to see. Funny enough, in the Congo, not a corncrake, but another bird that's tough to see, are flufftails. And so we went looking for the flufftails there, and you hear them so much. The forest echoes with them. And in one camp that we stayed, the white-spotted stayed underneath our deck, and you could hear it. But to try and see one of those things is almost impossible. So we didn't see them, but we heard both species that occur there, and unfortunately didn't find one, which sucks. Here is not the right place for flufftails. It's far too dry. In the Mara, you can find flufftails if you go into the swamp areas there. So you go to the Samaki swamp, you'll be able to find flufftails in that area. So I know that the guys do go look for them. I don't think Brent ever saw one, but I know he looked around. I went looking. You hear them again, but seeing a flufftail is almost best way is to walk and flush one and let it come out and kind of move in front of you and then spot it like that. But interestingly enough, the flufftails are an interesting species, because there is a species here in South Africa that's just been recorded to breed here for the first time ever during last summer. And so normally this particular species of flufftail breeds in one little spot in Ethiopia, and it was never thought to breed anywhere else in the world. And then last summer they found 2 nests for this species. It's a white rump, I think it is. white-rumped, yes, flufftail. That they found 2 nests, which is really exciting. So the breeding range of that bird is now doubled effectively, and it's in 2 different places, not only in Ethiopia but now down in South Africa as well, which is really, really, really cool. So there's a lot of excitement about that. Right, well, we're going to slowly start probably heading our way back towards camp. It's that time of the day. In the meantime though, let's send you back across to Steve.
Thanks, Tristan. Stay out of danger, sir. We have left the North Clan. The little ones retreated back into the den, and we thought we had our luck, and chances are they're not going to come out again. So we're going to slowly also start making our way back. And as we head back on towards the river, what's just so interesting is if we just have a look at the difference in the layer of grass on the right and the left, we're getting much closer to the river now. So it just goes to show the use closer to the water, how the grass is very, very short over here. And the herds have clearly been through. Very contrasting to what we saw further afield, a few kilometers further away from the water, where the animals are all accumulating at the moment. James, I most certainly am hoping to get my thumb on the Mara Flora. I'm going to need to get hold of a book. I don't have one, and there was not one in the library yesterday when I looked. So at the moment I am quite limited to that, but I most certainly will be trying to get as many trees down as I possibly can. Here we've got one of the crotons on our left hand side up ahead, and it is very similar to the lavender croton that we find in South Africa. It looks almost identical. Only difference being that I know the lavender croton does not grow down on areas like this. They grow up on slopes, up on very sandy soil, but they've got that sort of very silver leaf on the bottom, and they can often have these little sort of orangey leaves, ones that are kind of dying. But the croton gratissimus or lavender croton's got a very sweet lemony, sorry, not lemony, lavender sort of smell, and is very useful for chewing for any sort of mouth ulcers that you might have, but invariably being a croton, it is part of the Euphorbia family, and so it is essentially poisonous. So chew them at a very delicate pace. You don't want to eat too many of a poisonous plant, but any sores in the mouth. But then I don't know exactly about this one. I'm going to have to research it, but it looks identical to the lavender croton down in South Africa, also known as a fever berry, lavender fever berry. But this one I do not know the name of yet. I will be investigating, James, and ideally finding some nice trees. There was also a beautiful fig tree we saw yesterday. Had a nice pair of lions that side. Big fig tree. I don't know what fig it was. I'm going to have to do some research. So I would love to get my thumb on. We do have the torchwoods up here, as well as shepherd's trees, which are very, very common. But then on the hillsides there, which make up where we're going up on the Ololola range, well, there are a lot of trees up there. And I was having a look yesterday on my route back. A couple of acacias that I'm going to need to identify. Just a lot of trees I've never seen before, which is awesome. Really, really awesome. But without the luxury of a tree book, it's very hard to identify the trees. I might be able to get them in some sort of family, but that might be the end of that for the moment. I've never really spent too much time trying to identify trees on Google. Maybe I'll take photos and send them to my social media universe. See how we get along. Anyway, we're going to continue down, back off to camp, and in the meantime, let's go back over to Taylor, who's going to close with the little chief.
Right, how cool is that? I don't know why I said how cool is that. What? Like, what's all I've been saying today? How cool is that? What? It's absolute. There's a great word in South Africa to describe what I was just being like. And then that word is chop. A chop. I don't know how to describe it though. It's like being a fool, like just being silly. Why did you didn't need to say that. I don't know how. Yeah, silly is maybe a way to describe it, but you'll often hear South Africans going, "Oh man, you're such a chop," like that though, with that accent. You know, not one of these cha-cha chops or chopsticks, but yes. Also, I don't know why I said that, sorry everybody, but anyway, I feel like I'm digging the hole deeper now. I wish this wasn't live and we could just cut that out. That would, if you did have a doubt, that would have been removed. That was not necessary. And then Lou is now reminding me that chop is also a cut of meat. I don't know what cut of meat it is. Someone want to Google what cut of meat a chop actually is. Is it called a chop? Is that the real name for it? A lamb chop? A pork chop? It is called a chop. Anyway, so it's that as well. But isn't that spelled T-J-O-P? Chop. No, actually, maybe that's the way that it's spelled when I say you're such a chop. Sebastian actually says it the most in camp. That's like his line. He's such a chop.
Chop face.
Anyways, Hosanna moved into the thicket. He like laid underneath a whole lot of branches and things like that, so we couldn't really see him anymore. We decided to let him continue bird watching, and I'm sure he's going to have a nap at some point. But it's been a very exciting drive. Now we just need to figure out where the lions are and who they were. We know that they've come in from Little Gowrie. And like I said, there were two prides of lions that were that side, either the Nkuhumas or the Styx pride. They were around on Shirley's, which is not too far away from Little Gowrie. And I didn't see very young lion tracks, so I'm going to say maybe the Nkuhumas, because there were a few big male tracks with it too. We know that the Styx pride doesn't have any big males. There could have been the Evokers with them, but I think it may have, but they've got youngsters and you would have seen those small footprints around, so I think the Nkuhumas. Anyways, it'll give us something to do this afternoon. Tristan and I have got a lot of work to do in relocating Thandi and Tlalamba. Hosanna shouldn't go too far. So please join us for the safari a little bit later today. It'll be good. It's going to be hot. Maybe some elephants will pop up too. But thank you very much for all of your questions today. Thank you, Steve and the Mara. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you later. We're off to breakfast. Bye-bye.